it is only Chibuli Secondary School that was cleared because they had taken over 10 years without revising its school fees. All the other schools had revised their school fees without clearance from the ministry. So our observations and findings, one is that Gayaza High School charged the lowest fees, and the fees were only increased in term 1 to cater for shortfalls that were the result of COVID-19 effects. When you look at the school fees structure of Gayaza High School, Senior 2, Senior 3, Senior 4, and Senior 6 paid less by 1 million shillings for term 1, apart from the new classes, that is the Senior 1 and Senior 5 that paid one-off of 2.25 million and 2.245 million respectively to cater for sets of uniform, beds, and development fund. Fees charged by St. Mary's College Kisubi are the highest without anything uniquely different from other schools. For example, a 44% increment was noted in the fees for Senior 6 in the year 2022 compared to year 2018, and this rise in the fees was mainly driven by a 63% increment in the PTA fees from 809,000 to about 1.327 million. There was also an increment of over 100% in renovation fees from 30,000 to Uganda shillings 80,000. The church fees were raised from 15,500 to shillings 85,500. And introduction of a new item agenda, which is called academic guidance, that was at 82,000 shillings. Development fees of Uganda shillings 160,000 are charged on fees each term. Right, Honorable Speaker and members, overall, items that led to increase in fees include PTA, Board of Governors fees, which largely caters for salaries of staff that are not on government payroll. Then other expenses are because of food expenses, which were also increased due to inflation, and development fees that is largely meant to cater for capital development at these schools. At King's College Budo, they were charging slightly above 2 million shillings, and this was attributed largely to capital development that the school had to cater for, like the burnt dormitory that needed the construction and construction of the perimeter wall. At Chibuli Secondary School, they had not increased their fees for about 8 years, and this increment was largely driven by increased costs due to water and sewerage and inflation costs. The issues of increased salary for science teachers affected schools since this led to an increase in PTA funds, where salaries for teachers who are not on government payroll are drawn, and additional top-up to motivate the arts teachers. At Kawempe Muslim Secondary School, they charged the lowest fees among the 6 schools that we visited, even after minimal increment due to inflation costs and costs associated with the sewage. Term 1 was 14 weeks instead of the usual 12 weeks, and this led to an increase in term 1 fees to cater for the 2 extra weeks. At Nabisunsa Girls Secondary School, fees increment is usually driven by some cost. For example, in 2019, it was due to the school's connection to the main national sewer line, and now it was due to the high cost of consumables and fuel. The Ministry of Education and Sports pledged to construct the school a classroom block at Nabisunsa Girls Secondary School to reduce on the congestion in the financial year 2020-2021, but this has not been realized. The approval of the school budgets by the ministry, which approval was based on the proposed school fees increment, implied that the ministry had approved the increment since it was embedded in the budget approved. The government has not fully honored its obligations under Section 8 of the Education Act 2008. Since the enactment of the Education Act, the minister responsible for education has not come up with a statutory instrument to regulate school fees in accordance with Section 57G of the Act. Like I've already said in point 7, that due to salary disparities for science and arts teachers, schools had opted to top up salaries for their arts teachers as a motivation to enhance performance of the students. This also accounted for the increase in PTA funds. So as a committee, what do we recommend? 1, that the government should fully meet its obligations as per Section 8 of the Education Act 2008. And Right Honorable Speaker, these are listed. I don't know if I need to read through, but there are 9. There are 9 obligations. Honorable Sebung says these are key.
Your recommendations is what we shall vote on.
All right. So that government should fully meet its obligations as per Section 8 of the Education, that is Pre-Primary, Primary and Post-Primary Act 2008, which include 1, ensuring that trained teachers are deployed. 2, payment of salaries and allowances to teachers. 3, appointing heads for government and grant-aided educational institutions and deploying such heads to institutions in consultation with foundation bodies. 4, payment of salaries and wages to all established non-teaching staff. 5, paying statutory grants. 6, providing educational materials and other capital development inputs. 7, providing national selection and admission guidelines for all pupils and students to be enrolled. 8, monitoring behavior and performance of staff, both teaching and non-teaching. And finally, ensuring safety and security of children in schools and all education institutions. B, our second recommendation is that the government should, as a matter of urgency, come up with a statutory instrument to regulate the school fees charged by all schools. Our third recommendation is that government hastens the process of increasing salaries for all teachers to avoid the glaring salary disparities. The second prayer, that the government justifies why it continues to give statutory grants to government grant-aided schools that charge exorbitant tuition and non-tuition fees. The committee established that there are constitutional provisions that obligate the state to ensure that all Ugandans enjoy rights and opportunities and access to education under Objective 14B of the National Objectives and Directive Principles of State Policy. Furthermore, the committee recognizes the educational objectives in Objective 18 of the National Objectives and Directive Principles of State Policy, which include that the state shall promote free and compulsory basic education. 2, the state shall take appropriate measures to afford every citizen equal opportunity to attain the highest educational standard possible. 3, that individuals, religious bodies, and other non-government organizations can be free to found and operate educational institutions if they comply with the general. Sorry, I repeat.
Honorable, can you repeat that sentence to be captured on the answered?
Yeah, 3 is that individuals, religious bodies, and other non-government organizations shall be free to found and operate educational institutions if they comply with the general educational policy of the country and maintain national standards. Right Honorable Speaker and members, Section 8 of the Education, Pre-Primary, Primary, and Post-Primary Act 2008 detailed responsibilities of government towards government grant-aided schools. The committee took note of Sustainable Development Goal number 4, which aims at ensuring inclusive and equitable quality education and promoting lifelong learning opportunities for all, among other obligations. The committee was cognizant of the fact that Uganda subscribes to SDGs, and by implication, government is compelled to provide inclusive and equitable quality education for all. The committee observed that constitutional provisions relating to education, that is the Education Pre-Primary, Primary and Post-Primary Act 2008, and international statutory instruments and protocols obligate government to provide quality education for all. So what do we find out? The committee established from its field visits to the 6 selected government grant-aided schools that government support was informs as detailed in the table below. So right, Honorable Speaker and members, the table 2 is a table that shows government support, which is offered to government grant-aided schools we visited. Column 1 is for the schools, and column 2 is the nature of government support that these schools receive. If I may quickly run through for
No, Chair, please, this report has been uploaded over time. Okay, members should have, by the way, what you're doing here is to put the record straight. So members should have already read. I don't want this courage of members reading from here when you're on the floor. Please go on recommendations.
Okay, thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. So on that prayer, the committee recommends the following. 1, that the government should further operationalize the constitutional provisions and the Education, that is Pre-Primary, Primary and Post-Primary Act that relates to education. 2, that the government should allocate adequate funds to finance the wage bills for all government grant-aided institutions so as to fully cover the staff salaries, allowances, and wages for academic and non-academic staff, as well as group employees. This would lessen the burden on the school's board of governors of ensuring welfare and staff not on government payroll, which otherwise tempts boards to raise tuition in a bid to meet and offset the school's administrative overhead costs. 3, that the government should allocate adequate funds to government grant-aided educational institutions based on their annual budgets to enable them finance capital development projects. This would discourage them from listing down capital development funds among the school fees structures. Prayer number 3, that government grant-aided schools pay tuition and non-tuition fees into the consolidated fund. Right, Honorable Speaker and members, Section 29(2) of the Public Finance Management Act 2015 as amended states that revenue collected or received by a vote, state enterprise, or public corporation shall be paid into and shall form part of the consolidated fund. The committee noted that this prayer would require government grant-aided schools to deposit school fees collections into the consolidated fund, which would subject schools to rigorous government procedures at the time of requisitioning for funds to implement their activities. Our observation is that government grant-aided schools do not fall within the scope of Section 29(2) of the Public Finance Management Act 2015 and are not obligated by law to deposit their fees collection into the consolidated fund. So we recommend to this House that this prayer should be dropped. Prayer number 4, that the government posts sufficient teaching and non-teaching staff to government grant-aided schools and pays their salaries and wages. Right, Honorable Speaker and members, from the total staffing levels of government grant-aided schools, the committee established the following as indicated in the table. And just like the Right Honorable Speaker guided, members, you have this report uploaded. So this table shows the schools, the enrollment, how many students they have, total staffing level, both teaching and non-teaching, how many are on payroll, how many are not on payroll, and how much money government sends as wage bill compared to how much the schools need to pay for all the staff. So it is all captured in this table. So our observation, right, Honorable Speaker and members, is that one, the overall ratio of students staffing, both teaching and non-teaching, is about 1 to 9. The ratio of the student to teaching staff.
Chair, Peter. Please, if you know you're not a shadow minister, okay, free space on the front bench for, okay, free space on the front bench for, because I can see rope is being squeezed and, okay, yeah, yeah. Please, create some space for rope and yes. Colleagues in the public gallery this afternoon, we have a delegation of students from various universities under the umbrella of the MADI Students Union. That is Makerere University, Guru University, Makerere University Business School, Chambago University, Uganda Christian University, Kampala International University, Mulago Paramedical, Metropolitan International University, Islamic University in Uganda, Victoria University, and Sharing Youth Business and Vocational School. They have come to observe proceedings of this house. Please join me in welcoming them. You can stand up and just wave at members. Thank you. My MPs from MADI community, here is your group. Thank you. Please proceed, Chair.
Right, Honorable Speaker and members, I was making our observations. One, that the overall average ratio of the students to staffing is at 1 to 9, and the ratio of students to teaching staff is 1 to 20, which is commendable against a recommended 1 to 21 student to teacher ratio. Two, that the teachers on government payroll that are above 50% were found in King's College Budo, which is at 61%, Kawempe Muslim Secondary School at 69.1%, Chibuli Secondary School at 69%, and Nabisunsa Girls at 57%. However, St. Mary's College Kisubi is at 41.2%, and Gayaza High School is at 48.7%. Therefore, St. Mary's College Kisubi has the least number of teachers on government payroll. Third observation, that the government wage bill is minimal compared to that of the school's board of governors, because majority of the non-teaching staff who comprise the majority of staff are largely paid by their respective schools' board of governors. In most schools visited, the government wage bill is below 50%, averaging at 20%, save for Chibuli Secondary School and Kawempe Muslim School, that is at 50.6% and 55.1% respectively. Four, that the government has not fully honored its obligation of ensuring deployment of trained teachers to government grant-aided schools as prescribed under Section 8A of the Education Act 2008. As the committee established that a substantial number of academic staff or trained teachers were employed by schools' board of governors as compared to a few who were on government payroll. Our recommendation is that government should recruit and post sufficient number of academic staff to various government grant-aided educational institutions and take charge of their welfare. In so doing, government would be honoring its obligation as prescribed under Section 8A, B, and C of the Education Pre-Primary, Primary, and Post-Primary Act 2008. Right Honorable Speaker and members, on the matter raised by Honorable Cutie, which was to do with the planned increase of third term secondary school fees by private secondary schools across the country. During the proceedings, just like I mentioned, of the House on Tuesday 16th, Honorable Appeal Samuel Akuti, MP Kole North, raised the matter of national importance on the planned increment of third-term school fees by the National Private Educational Institutions Association. The prayers raised in the urgent matter were the one, that the Ministry of Education and Sports intervenes to regulate the school fees as mandated by the Education Act. 2, that government comes up with measures to enhance secondary school enrollment in Uganda. The Committee of Education and Sports held a meeting with Honorable Opio Samuel Akuti on Wednesday, 31st August 2022, and observed the following. That whereas the matter raised by the member was premised on school fees increment in private secondary schools across the country, examples were related to purely government grant-aided schools, which included St. Mary's College Kisubi and Gayaza High School. The matter was raised during the second term school holidays, and that schools had already issued circulars to parents, guardians detailing school fees for third term for the academic year 2022, and that some of the parents and guardians had already paid fees in preparation for the beginning of third term, and therefore the matter would be best handled in the next academic year 2023. Our recommendation, Right Honorable Speaker and members, is that government reiterates similar recommendations regarding government regulating school fees payable to schools. Conclusion, Right Honorable Speaker and members, while considering the motion for a resolution of Parliament urging government to address the exorbitant tuition and non-tuition fees charged by government grant-aided schools, the matter raised by Honorable Samuel Akute and the matter raised by the Honorable Samuel Akute, the Committee on Education and Sports concludes that government owes a responsibility to government grant-aided schools as prescribed under constitutional provisions and the Education, that is Pre-Primary, Primary and Post-Primary Act 2008. However, there is need for government to fully meet its obligations by funding government grant-aided schools as envisaged in the aforementioned Act, as this will disparities in remuneration of science teachers as compared to those teaching arts subjects or humanities. And this has had constrained schools in trying to motivate arts teachers by topping up their salaries to match the science teachers. That there was need for government to come up with a statutory instrument to regulate the school fees charged by schools. Right Honorable Speaker, before I wind up, I want to appreciate my members. My members worked tirelessly hard and were extremely a good team in this process. And Right Honorable Speaker, I also want to mention that for the very first time, our committee has a minority report. We are not entirely objected to the minority report, but it came at the last minute. I hope you have a copy. And therefore, I want to invite our honorable member, Honorable Brenda, to come and take us through her minority report. And if she thinks we can now move together, it is still okay. But yes, she has a minority report and it is her right to present a minority report. So, Right Honorable Speaker and members, I beg to report.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Chair. Rule 205, Sub-Rule 1, the minority report is appended onto the main report. So it's part of the report. So that's why the chairperson was calling his colleague to come and present the minority report. So Honorable Brenner, and please straight away to areas of dissent, because the introduction part is what he went through.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I want to thank the chair for the opportunity also. I'll straight away go to the area of dissent. Right Honorable Speaker, my point of dissent with majority of the committee is on number 1 recommendation on page 15 of the majority report. The committee reiterates that similar recommendations regarding government regulating school fees payable to schools, that is in regards to the private schools, Right Honorable Speaker, at the root of school fees regulation in Uganda lies very weak provisions of the Education, Pre-Primary, Primary and Post-Primary Act 2008. The report of the majority has failed to notice two shortcomings with the law. First, the law does not compel the minister to act on school fees as a periodical obligation. Section 57G of the law is just a provision that the minister may, if or she wishes, by statutory instrument, issue regulations regarding fees. The current minister has used this weakness to side with schools against parents. Right Honorable Speaker, number 2, the penalties provided under Section 5112 are so weak that if a school raised fees to the tune of billions of shillings, the maximum penalty is 50 points. Shillings 1 million, I could say. The minority report seeks to call for support from honorable colleagues in this House to support the amendment of the Education Act 2008 to fix the loopholes. Right Honorable Speaker, I take this opportunity to put this House on notice that I will seek space on the order paper for a motion seeking leave of Parliament to introduce a private member's bill for relevant amendments in the Education Act. Additionally, we should not shy away from the fact that some of the implementers of the law are actually private school owners and usually relax when it comes to implementation of the same law, like the SI instruments. Because some of them do not require parliamentary approval, not all statutory instruments come to Parliament for approval. This conflict of interest has continued to affect the regulation of school fees. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, Section 3(2) of the Education Act, pre-primary, primary and post-primary, provides for regulation of school fees, but more often the private school owners claim that this provision does not bind them, but binds the government-aided schools. Clarity in the law is fundamental. Right Honorable Speaker, while private schools have the autonomy to generate surplus, there has to be a balance between autonomy of such institutions and the measure taken to prevent commercialization of education. And equally, government should examine the public-private partnership in education, which is inextricably linked to rapidly expanding privatization and also its implication for the right to education and the principle of social justice and equity. Right Honorable Speaker, I recommend that as a way of a long-term approach, that's the bill I talked about from Parliament, a law to regulate school fees with clear roles for each and every stakeholder. And also in a long term, in a short term, the Minister of Education and Sports should table a statutory instrument for regulation of school fees with agreeable fees amounts on the floor of Parliament for approval before the term begins for the new school calendar year 2023. Right Honorable Speaker, this is a recommendation that is going to be overtaken by events because the report was worked on earlier. Those are some of the, but there are still very fundamental issue, Right Honorable Speaker, on the inspectorate of schools. I really need to, because Right Honorable Speaker, not only that's educational financing, not only as government continue to provide meager capitation grants, miserably failed to deliver on the UCE, it has also participated in making education a business. Today, education sector has been liberalized like any other player in the business world. Private school owners dream of fees threshold and implement the same as and when they wish. Parents and guardians are left at nobody's mercy, let alone their cries falling on deaf ears. Even with the provisions of fees payable, government contribution in the education regulations the Act is not sufficient enough to adequately address the issue of school fees. Right Honorable Speaker, private schools constitute 100% of the early childhood development and largely located in urban areas. This contributes to the tax base of the country. Annual subscription to NSSF and greatly contribute to national development. By employing Ugandans as teachers and non-teaching staff, despite this contribution, these early childhood development centers are wholesomely privately owned. The role of the Inspectorate of Schools Department in the Education Ministry and local government. Whereas the Inspectorate function under the Directorate of Education Standards, DS, as a core mandate of ensuring quality education in both public and private primary and secondary schools in Uganda under Section 25(1)(b) of the Education Act 2008. An inspector of school is mandated to inspect and provide a report to the permanent secretary and district education officer and relevant foundation body in a format prescribed by the Director of Education Standards with respect to the school or any aspect of it, including any building, workshop, hostel, kitchens used in connection of the Education Institute. Inspector of schools have a key role of quality control in schools as appointed by the Education Service Commission or District Service Commission. Underfunding of this department has crippled its functionality, and it is to the detriment of the education sector. Right, Honorable Speaker, when you go to districts and ask the education inspector if they knew how much schools were charging parents, private schools, or even government aided, they will never tell you because there is always no funding, not much funding, I miss. So with such issues, I think we need to correct, because even if we amend the laws and we don't fund education, we won't be able to change much. Right, Honorable Speaker, as I conclude, I measured capitation grant, but today a child in primary school, UPE, a day government spends at the maximum 333 Uganda shillings. Because a year at a maximum, if it doesn't fluctuate, the government sends 20,000. For 3 terms, if we choose 60 days, that is 6,000 per term. So a day, that is 333 at a maximum. So how can we say you're going to curb fees increment in schools? Let me say if they are charging other fees on the side. How are we going to have quality education if each child costs 333 as the highest percentage? Because at times it fluctuates to 200 to what? These are questions we need to ask ourselves as legislators. As I conclude, Right Honorable Speaker, consideration for an effective education policy, this Parliament should enact a law for fees regulation. It is very fundamental. It has happened in India and other countries. If the committee took time to compare.
Honorable, can you read the report?
Okay, I thank you. Government needs to fully fund pre-primary education, particularly early childhood development. The pre-primary component should be provided as separate budget line and not lump summed with the primary component. Adopt a formula that caps fees for schools by framing rules under the school education legislation. Finally, in conclusion, as I conclude, Right Honorable Speaker, measures such as regular government supervised audits, generating capacity in local government departments of education, regular inspections, and stricter sanctions for fraudulent reporting could be considered. Additionally, a fee hike should be used for improving the quality of education and not for profiteering. It is also crucial that a regulation strikes a balance between protecting the interests of students and parents and preserving the autonomy of schools. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, if these proposed considerations are adopted by this August House, our education will be one of those yardsticks in the region. I thank you.
Thank you. Honorable colleagues, you've already checked our order paper today. I'll pick a few colleagues to debate this report so that we also continue and ensure that since we are going on recess, there are very critical issues which we must go when they are already sorted. So, and I want us to finish plenary by 6 p.m. So, colleagues in the VIP gallery this afternoon, we have a delegation of MPs of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Gender Equality, Social Development and Family Affairs from the National Assembly of Namibia. They are here to benchmark and share experiences with their counterparts. They include Honorable Emilia Noya Amupewa, Head of Delegation. Honorable Anakleta Skerete, MP. Honorable Halinde Jiveze, MP. Miss Maria Mombola, Deputy Clerk. Miss Doris Arawi, Chief Parliamentary Clerk. Please join me in welcoming them. Thank you. Yes, we have the members who raised the issue. So I'll start with Honorable Saro Pendi and Honorable Achut next, and then I'll go to the rest of the colleagues. For members who raised the issue, 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable. Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I am extremely disappointed. Yes, first and foremost, I presented this motion last year in February, when just before even schools started. It has taken this committee a whole year. Right Honorable Speaker. Secondly, I presented a document by our research department on the school fees issue. They visited a number of schools. The committee visited a few schools within Kampala and ignored even the critical issues that I raised in my motion, Right Honorable Speaker. One of the issues that I raised, Right Honorable Speaker, is the issue as to why these grant-aided schools charge even higher than private schools within Kampala. Yes. Set a high, Right Honorable Speaker, if I can pick that as a school, to give an example. The school fees in Seta High is 1,950,000. This proprietor has to pay fees, feed the children, and they feed the children well. I have children there. In addition to that, maintain the buildings. They have pay salaries and all that. But then you have a grant-aided school where government puts in money and pays 70% of the teachers, or even if it is 60%. They have capitation grant. They are charging over 2,350,000. And Right Honorable Speaker, the committee ignored my issue. For them, they are looking at fees. And they are even now say that, you see, they are looking at the tuition fees. Tuition fees is not school fees. School fees brings development fees. They have church fees. They have admission fees. They have application fees. Some schools, Right Honorable Speaker, charge as high as 600,000. After you have applied, they charge 100. A parent just sent me, a pay slip. 200,000 shillings for application. Then you have to pay 600,000 for admission. Right Honorable Speaker, I want to pray that this parliament rejects the proposal by the committee to increase funding to grant-aided schools, Right Honorable Speaker. If government can put in money and you still charge more, then what are we doing? How many schools, Right Honorable Speaker, see the secondary schools, are there out there struggling? We have schools, Right Honorable Speaker, this research, St. Andrea Kawa College in Hoima, one of the best performing schools, is charging 450,000. And this is boarding. How are they taking care of these children in the boarding schools? So, Right Honorable Speaker, it is high time this parliament stood with the people of Uganda. And we left these schools either to the foundation body or we amend the law so that all this money is paid into the consolidated fund, and then there is equity in education in this country. What is even happening, Right Honorable Speaker, in these parents-teachers meetings? Imagine if a child comes from Mitoma to a school like SMAC. In the parents' meeting, the rich say, charge more, increase, we want comfort for our teacher, for our children. So the poor people cannot speak in these parents' meetings. And therefore, the schools are taking advantage because majority of the teachers, of the parents, are rich. They are using that to actually increase fees and earn more. How can you charge church fees 85,000? Now they have even introduced insurance. There is even insurance fees. In addition to maintenance, development fees, you now have insurance fees. So, Right Honorable Speaker, it is...
Thank you. Conclude, just conclude.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. It is the responsibility of the state to provide free, compulsory and basic education. That is the obligation of the state. We cannot leave the provision of education to the private sector to milk the Ugandans, and now there is iniquity in the education sector. So education is key for the development of this country. So I want to appeal to colleagues. For me, I want to reject this report by the committee. We shall stand with the minority report and move to amend the Education Act so that we can have equity in the education sector. Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Now, on top of all that fees, we continue also to pay tithes. but there's an important point Honorable Sarah has raised. Because you see, if the foundation bodies and the people running these schools are saying the moment we reduce the quality of our schools, okay, the quality of our delivery of service is going to go down. And they are saying, no, we have parents who are willing to pay this much. Don't you think from what she's saying, if we went for a model of government pulling out of these schools, we leave them to the foundation bodies, we have a university that is successfully run. It's for the foundation body, UCU, in Mukono. And it's doing very well without government interfering. So I think we shall, by the end, we should come out with a middle ground on this issue. Honorable Achut.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, and I want to thank the committee for the report. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, the greatest natural resource in a country is not the gold mines, nor is it the oil fields, but the people. And the biggest investment you can make is in their education. Right Honorable Speaker, I want to thank the committee for the report, but I want to bring it to attention the UBOS data on secondary school enrollment in Uganda as of 2020, which stood at an average of just 27.3%. At Kampala, it is at 52.3%. When you go to Acholi, it's at 7.2%. In Lango, it's at 14%. That means out of every 100 children between the age of 13 to 18 years who are supposed to be in secondary school, only 14 in my sub-region and in my constituency are in secondary school. If you go to Kole North, the cheapest secondary school, which is a seed secondary school, is 1.2 million shillings per year. But the average farmer only gets and earns 600,000 shillings per year. The schools have ceased to be learning institutions, but they are just a landmark for showing directions to the sub-county. Right Honorable Speaker, because of this low enrollment, we have one of the lowest human resource productivity in the world. The World Bank report on Human Capital Index shows that, and that's based on health and education, Uganda is at 40%. That means a child born in Uganda is only 40% productive. A child born in the US and China is 70% productive. A child born in Singapore is 90% productive. I want to take you to the report that has been presented, and I have 3 observations. The first observation, which is on page 5, and annexure 1 and annexure 2, is on the high cost of secondary education. When you look at the range of the fees for these secondary schools, it is between 4.5 million to 7.6 million shillings per year. When you go to Makerere University's fee structure, a course for medicine, pharmacy, and engineering, both tuition fees and accommodation and functional fees is less than 7.6 million. When you look at the cost in Makerere University for Bachelor of Social Sciences, Bachelor of Commerce, it is less than 4.5 million. University education is cheaper than secondary education. In other words, it is cheaper to take your child to study medicine, pharmacy, and engineering in Makerere than to take them to a secondary school to study history, economics, and general paper. Right Honorable Speaker, the second issue is on the varied...
Yeah, Honorable, switch on.
When you look at the report that has been presented, the definition of school fees is defined by each school. When you look at Kisubi, it has 29 items defined as school fees. Kibuli has 15 items defined as school fees. Nabisunza has 6 items defined as school fees. What is school fees? There is no standardized structure. When you go to university, school fees is clear. Tuition fees, functional fees, accommodation fees, and it is sorted. And it is cut across every institution, whether private and whether it is public. We need to standardize the school fees structure in this country. The third issue is on the itemized costs. I have delved into some of them. When you look at, for example, King College Budo, it has Board of Governor fees, which is 298,100, and also PTA fees, which is 520,000. When you add all this, it is 4.4 billion shillings a year. Now, the report says that all this money goes to paying the teaching and non-teaching staff. King's College Budo, which has the highest number of teachers on government payroll, if we were to go by those statistics and divide by about 60, it means that every teacher and support staff are earning between 6 to 9 million shillings per month, which is impossible. What are we saying? We need to delve into what we call the Board of Governor fees. That is actually a foundation body fees that you're paying for it. There is need to dig deeper into it. And lastly, on the development fees, why should a school have the highest fees structure in it is the development fees, 600,000, and then tuition fees is 200,000. And why is it that when the development stops, the fees does not go down? It still remains. And why is it that the development never stops? It is continuous and endless development. Right Honorable Speaker, as I conclude, we need a regulatory framework for school fees in this country. Not today, not tomorrow, not yesterday, but yesterday but one. We need to have it here. I beg to submit.
Thank you. Is Honorable Nathan Byanyuma here? He was a seconder. Okay. Okay. So I'll pick Gomba. I'll pick Kumi. I pick Osoru. I pick Gender. And then Ndeze. And then Mbwa. Omara, Mushemeza, and Noah. Then I come like this. So let's do quick 2 minutes each. Strictly 2 minutes.
Right Honorable Speaker, I would like to thank you for the opportunity. It's a pity that the basic rights, food, clothing, shelter, education, and health are actually the most expensive, and yet we need them to survive. And when you look at education and health, it's the worst. Look at the fact that we need educated people, but right from nursery fees is more expensive sometimes than university fees. As you go up primary, it gets even worse. When I was in secondary, we had bursaries, and the structure was uniform throughout, and we managed to get education. So I think we should come up with something standard
And also the timing matters. It's so haphazard. These people are ruthless. They are callous. It's at the beginning of term that they come up with these measures to stifle parents. And you can make it fatal for somebody. The person may never go to school again. So let us be more considerate. My seed school, Chai Seed School in Chai is limping because of this same sort of thing. And so I speak with passion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Kumi?
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Thank you for the report of the committee. Mr. Speaker, there is also an observation that most schools took advantage of the COVID-19. And normally for any small increment in the fees, the parents are supposed to be engaged. But when you do the research across the country, most of the schools increased fees by over 40–50% without the engagement of the parents, which is not okay. Mr. Speaker, we have issues right now in the local governments. There is a new policy where schools are supposed to be titled in their own names. Mr. Speaker, I want to report here there is a lot of resistance, and especially in Kumi, I want to openly quote what the Right Reverend Joseph Echiru Oliach, the Bishop of Soroti Catholic Diocese, said. He actually cautioned us, the leaders, when we were attending a confirmation program, and said he is not going to accept it. That for any school belonging to a Catholic school, a Catholic foundation body, no titling should be done without the name of the foundation body. So as we discuss issues pertaining education in this country, there is a need for us to popularize any policy, any new guidelines that we come across with in the country. Otherwise, we shall continue contradicting as we deliver the services. Finally, on inspection of secondary schools, Mr. Speaker, I have seen a tendency of secondary schools not abiding by and respecting.
Arua City?
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I want to thank the chair for his report, but first of all, I want to disassociate myself with some of the recommendations he put before this August House. And secondly, some of the recommendations made there are very discriminatory to some of the families and homes that are financially stressed or financially weak. Right Honorable Speaker, I want to say that when the committee toured the government-aided schools, they only concentrated in Kampala. Yet we also have up-country schools that also increase school fees too as well. We know that because our people are living beyond the line of poverty. If you go to West Nile, you find homes that cannot even eat food, or families that cannot even eat food twice in a day, only once in a day. Now, we have government-aided schools where government is facilitating or funding 60%. The structures are put by the government. The laboratories are funded by the government. You talk more of the textbooks, and then we still go ahead to increase school fees. Are we not doing our way? Are we not undermining the UN 2030 agenda of that stated that no one should remain behind? We should include everyone for quality education. I want to reject this report, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Chair Gegwa?
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I want to thank you for causing this debate. Right Honorable Speaker, I want to speak to the Education Act 2008, which specifies that this government is going to provide education to pre-primary, primary, and post-primary. But they have left the early childhood development or early childhood education to private sector. And Right Honorable Speaker, the early childhood education, if there were any researched information to be brought here, actually you would rather take the child to a secondary school than take them to a nursery school, because nurseries for them, they extort left, right, and center. And they do not even consider the age, they do not consider the curriculum, they never consider what the parents are earning, and they
Colleagues,
simply
let's listen
ask
to one
for
another.
money every time.
Please.
They have even started putting money-making ventures like graduations, like parents' meetings for nursery, like exams. And so every bit of getting money is what they introduce every day. Right, Honorable Speaker. When I was in the 9th Parliament, actually in the year 2012, the ECD policy was being developed by government. Only that it caused a commotion between whether it should belong to education or belong to gender. And up to now, we have not seen that ECD policy. When are we receiving the ECD policy? Can we be told the status of the early childhood education policy and the early childhood development policy, Right Honorable Speaker?
Thank you. Honorable Ndezi.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. My points are only two. The issues we are talking about today are of a national character. From West Nile to where we are today. From Karamoja to Chisoro. Honorable Speaker, I beg to draw your attention to the sample our colleagues used for the purpose of the analysis. Chiwori Secondary School, Gaza, King's College Budo, Navisunsa, Suvi, oh my God. All these are from where? From what we call Greater Kampala. Therefore, this analysis has no national character at all, and there is no way. There is no way a parliament with the national character can agree to pronounce itself on the subject of this matter. Last, if you have a vehicle and it first takes you where you want to go, it means it is useless. We have had this law in press. Our colleagues are saying that the law exists and that the law can work, but this law has failed to help us. This car of ours has failed to take us anywhere. Therefore, we say, let this car be taken to a garage. Let this law be amended in some way to ensure that it is helpful. I thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Mbwa.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I wish to thank the minority report. And for sure, my colleagues, thank you so much who brought the major report, but I think it was lacking some facts. First and foremost, as my colleague Honorable Ndezi has said, you only concentrated here in Kampala because you wanted to save the per diem. You were well facilitated. The facilitation you were given was well enough to make sure that it can even take you as far as Bishen and Mitoma.
Point of order.
What made you to stay here in Kampala?
We have a point of order. Please, Honorable Mbwa, take your seat.
Order.
Take your seat. Please, let's listen to one
Thank you.
another.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, it's against our rules to cast aspersions on honorable members of Parliament and colleagues. Is the honorable member in order to suggest, even remotely, that and to impute that the members of the Education Committee did not go outside Kampala only to save on per diem. Is he in order?
Colleagues. You know, colleagues, we are colleagues in this house. We might do work which does not meet your expectations. But when I've given it my best, you know, so decorum of this house requires that we don't impute improper motive on any colleague, okay? So because it's really wrong for a member to declare that the members did whatever they could do because they wanted to save. So Honorable Mbwa, for purposes of decorum and respect for your colleagues, please come and do. You do good.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. I won't be like the former minister whom we've just censured because he was not remorseful enough. I withdraw with pain the statement. Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, because of time.
Allow me information.
Why I'm so hurt. The same committee, with the same committee of budget, last year when they were making the budget, they tried to put some schools, the well-to-do schools, to benefit the likes of Budo, to benefit from development fund, the likes of Ntare, when actually our schools never benefited, that they've never attracted any building. So, Right Honorable Speaker, allow me and I beg for more time. You can see even some of the schools that benefited. Kabarega Secondary School, St. Edward Bukumi, St. Henry's Chitovu, Lango College, Bukedi College, Nabisunsa Girls, Nabumale High School, Mvala Senior School, Makerere College, Kigezi High, Busoga College Mwiri, King's College Budo, Ntare Secondary School. Why are our schools, Right Honorable Speaker? They benefited from development fund. A lot of money, billions were given to them. When they are charging more money as development fund, I have a school which is like called Kakaju. For more than 30 years, a government school, government has failed even to construct a toilet. Shame.
Thank you, Honorable colleague. Thank you. No time, Honorable, please. Thank you. Now, colleagues, please, let me first guide you. Okay? Honorable Minister will come at the end. Please, Honorable colleagues, let me guide you. Okay? Committee reports are mere recommendations, which can either be accepted or rejected by this House. If a committee made recommendations of giving development support to these schools, and the committee presented it on this floor, and we adopted it as a House, all of us are guilty as charged. You cannot come and you start blaming a committee when it brought a report here and you adopted it. You should have rejected it at that time. Please, let us not go into politics of committees. Honorable Mara, what is the procedure matter?
Mr. Speaker, thank you so much. Honorable members, Right Honorable, if you're asked to look for schools that are charging exorbitant school fees in this country, you'll be a bad researcher to go to Kasanda. You'll have to concentrate here, Wachiso, Kampala, and that is where the major culprits are. Now, when you come here, Right Honorable Speaker, and you choose a committee that was given a task to look for schools doing exorbitant school fees, and you accuse them of sampling here. Right, Honorable Speaker, that is not fair. I think the committee was guided with what they were supposed to do. Honorable Speaker, are we proceeding well to choose a committee that was given a total of exorbitant school fees?
Thank you.
And most of them are here, and you sample here. Right, Honorable Speaker, I think let us be fair.
But Honorable, you've given a ruling to your procedure question. But colleagues, please, okay? A committee has done work and brought it here. You have a right to either accept their recommendation or not. So let us allow debate. Honorable Mara.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, for allowing this debate. Right Honorable Speaker, I want to commend Honorable Dr. Opia Chuti for the elaborate submission which he has provided. I just want to supplement, Right Honorable Speaker. The key issue that this House must answer is, what is it that constitutes school fees? There are others that have 6 lines, 12 lines, 18 lines. This House must come up with clear recommendations of what really constitutes school fees. And that will really help us to come to the right conclusion. Secondly, Right Honorable Speaker, the escalation in school fees rates is not backed by tangible items. We can do statistical inference, especially on cost of living. We have UBOS. UBOS can go around the country and come up with cost of items, which can actually be used to calculate what kind of fees must be paid. Right Honorable Speaker, the other item that I really want us to look at, which the committee made recommendation about, is for government to harmonize the salary payments between science and arts teachers. Right Honorable Speaker, the recommendation was weak. I would want this House to adopt the policy that every teacher who enters a classroom must be treated the same way, must get the same pay. This policy has been discriminatory. I met the head teachers in Otuke district with the COW and the DEO. All of them, they've said they have failed to manage their schools on account of this unequal payment. So this recommendation must be adopted, Right Honorable Speaker, so that all our teachers get equal pay. And the last one,
Thank you, Honorable Mshemeza.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I want to begin by thanking the committee who have been able to amalgamate the 2 motions and deal with them. I will begin with a general observation that borders with the ongoing budget process. Unless, as a government, we invest in projects that generate income very quickly to the economy, even if we have schools that are funded by government 100%, the challenges will remain, and the schools will still use those challenges to hike fees. That's a general observation. Right Honorable Speaker, when you look at what is being charged in both private schools and government-aided schools that have been cited, it borders to exploitation. Even if we invoke the principles of demand and supply in a liberalized economy, there is no justification for a school to charge over 2 million shillings right now. There is no justification. I want to support the recommendation that we need a law that is going to look at school fees. We may not fix, but we can give a range. Finally, the issue of correcting fees to a consolidated fund. We're already having problems in local governments. Money being generated and not being returned. I remember the Honorable Lady here from Wakiso articulated the issue very well. That one we should reject, to say that money should be corrected from schools to the consolidated fund. No, that would not help us. But honorable members, we must stand very firmly to regulate school fees in this country because it is bordering to exploitation.
Thank you, Honorable Wanzara.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the chairperson of the committee and the committee for the report. Among their recommendations, Mr. Speaker, they recommended the recruitment of teachers and non-teaching staff in secondary schools or government-aided schools. Mr. Speaker, recently, Education Service Commission advertised, and after advertisement, teachers applied, and teachers were interviewed. After interviews, the successful candidates were given appointment letters. But you can't go to class, you can't go to any district without a posting instructions. The teachers are out there in the country without posting instructions. We want the Minister of Education to tell us why the teachers have only appointment letters without posting instructions. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, when you go to our rural schools, especially secondary schools, we have science teachers who are posted there. But when they go there, they give only one day in that school, they teach one day and come back and teach the Kampala schools. But if our team, our committee here had gone to the villages to sample, they would have a better report, a balanced report, whereby they have sampled the town schools and the rural schools. So next time, if they are going, let them sample the schools in Nakasongola, the schools in Karungu, the schools in Kampala. We shall have a balanced report. I thank you, Mr.
Honorable Narima.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I associate myself with the recommendations of the minority report and one key item also in the major report. And this brings to our attention the matter of facilitation of local governments. Mr. Speaker, as we talk about all this, we have to consider one key matter that secondary schools and primary schools, vis-a-vis the nursery ones, it's a key role of inspection under the district education officers and district inspectors. Now, as we talk about who to monitor, we are seeing that at this moment, the district education officers, as I interacted with some a few days back, they don't have any facilitation and schools are opening. So we really need to consider this and also ask finance to intervene and give local governments a certain amount now to do inspection for us in schools. When we get a feedback, we should also not forget the privatization policy we took on as a country. That one is key to seeing that this social service is entirely dying away vis-a-vis what we are supposed to do. So we should opt now for further regulation as earlier hinted on. And finally, Mr. Speaker, as they sample out these schools, we should recall that a district like Wakiso has some other non-mentioned schools here, which are in the islands like Busi, we are having Masulita. Also, such should be sampled to really understand. But good enough, many of us here, these very schools we are talking about, you will find that even the population of Wakiso people is around 10. The rest of the population in these schools, they're like 90% from countrywide representation of the many people.
Thank you. Honorable Mujiche.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, when I went to school, those days, a few years ago, it was the capacity of your head, your brain, that took you to a better school. Recently, it is the capacity of your pocket that will take you to a good school. And consequently, the children of the poor, who are intelligent, will not find a good school. Even the schools now that we have abandoned them to, the USE schools and UAP schools. The other day, the Prime Minister was in my district, and I want to thank her for what she did, contributed to our church. But I have heard the Prime Minister, I have heard the President say that anybody who goes to UPE school should not pay any shilling. USA should not pay any shilling. But how much does government contribute? 55,000 shillings. Now, 55,000 shillings in a USA school, and 7,000 or 10,000 in a primary school. And you're saying the parents should not pay anything. The alternative are these schools we are talking about, which are not affordable. I want to thank the Prime Minister for encouraging parents not to pay, but I would also ask you that we increase from 55 to a bigger figure whereby maybe if you go to a school, you can find education. Then we can tell parents not to pay anything. But as of now, there is no education taking place in UPE because the teachers are not teaching. Now, they opt to sell their land to go to Ntare School. Ntare School is paying 2 million. When St. Joseph's Vocational.
Honorable Jimmy Rwanga.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I want to thank the minority report. Right Honorable Speaker and members, we should first thank the private sector for helping government in areas where government has no single school. In the Njeru municipality that I represent, I have a division without a single government secondary school. That is Wakisi division. And all the people that are providing educational services are private practitioners. And instead of government helping out these people, they are subjected to outrageous and double taxation by both URA and the local governments. So I'm calling upon government to look into the issue of areas with no single government secondary school. Thank you.
Rob.
It's okay. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I will need protection from the chairperson of the committee. I want to assure him that all is well. Right Honorable Speaker, listen to this debate.
A procedure, we have a procedure matter, Honorable Zijan.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I rise on two procedural issues. The first procedural issue has to do with rule. It is the rules. It is the rules, members. Procedure issue number 2, Right Honorable Speaker. In your conducting of business and granting members equal opportunity to debate in the House, the independents are ignored. The independents and the opposition side is ignored, and this has been a continual practice, Right Honorable Speaker. Do we proceed right with one side of the House taking the lion's share of the debate while we are ostracized and deprived of opportunity to debate, Right Honorable Speaker? Do we proceed right? Thank you.
Number 1, to begin with, Honorable colleague, Honorable Andrew Ojok is in the right place because I allowed free sitting. We allowed free sitting from the time of COVID and all that, and that's what I use my general authority under the rules to allow free sitting. And this has been a practice. So, but Honorable Zijan has not been here of late. He just returned. So, number 2, colleagues, when I'm doing a debate in this House, I consider many issues. One of them is numerical strings. You don't see me calling parties, but in my conduct of business, I consider numerical string. Now, it's unfortunate I've just picked independent members following each other, and the Dean of Independencies are choosing me. Okay? So, please, Honorable, and also, if I may guide, when you're a Dean of Independence, please, colleagues, when you're a leader in this House, and you have such an issue, leaders of your nature are given priority in my office. You visit me in my office, you say, Right Honorable Speaker, I have observed a trend where my people, my team, is not being given opportunity to speak. And then we can go through, and I say, oh, okay, I've seen a problem. Then that's providing leadership. That's what leadership is all about. And that's why we choose leaders, okay? So, Lop.
Much obliged, Right Honorable Speaker. Probably to re-anchor your observation from the members concerned, I had already suggested that we needed to wheel our whipping system perhaps as a cure to enable the whips do their job. And I remember reaching out to my brother, the government chief whip, to find occasion, to find a mechanism where major debates occur to support the speakers so that we can remedy that kind of challenge. The whips would align debate in terms of depth of issues, interest playing in the House, because it's a House of interests. So I want to invite you, Right Honourable Speaker, to align the whips to try and help us in this endeavor. It can help the House to debate better with this delicate balance considered.
Rob, you know, on several occasions you've come to me and you say, on this issue, I have some of my members whom I would want to contribute. I don't need to announce it on the floor. I always pick those people and I give them priority. Chief Whip has done the same and I always do. Okay? So the moment you reach out to me. Because the biggest issue would be, some members would say, no, we want to catch the eye of the speaker. We want, because some of the people are not coming every day. You agree on with colleagues, they are not here sometimes, you know. But whenever a whip or a leader of any group reaches out to me that I have this topical issue, and some members have approached me that they have a big contribution they want to make, I even give more time to such a members. So it's up to you whips and leaders of the various groups in the House.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I'll be very brief on this subject matter. The bipartisan debate has ably represented my thoughts, and I must declare interest from the onset. Initially, I am a teacher, but too, I'm an investor in education, right from nursery, primary, secondary, and tertiary. So I do hear and understand the challenges of the sector. But again, this debate being bipartisan in nature should awaken everyone. You know, Right Honourable Speaker, governments collapse differently. Some collapse suddenly, others in a series. And Honourable Speaker, the chairperson of the committee and his team have no crime. They are making a report as to the obtaining voids in the sector. The first death to the sector was visited on the planning component. Do you have a planning department in this ministry? Do they plan? When you have this sector run impulsively, we are debating the consequences of impulsive planning. You wake up and say, we're increasing pay for science teachers. This week, Right Honourable Speaker, I received a petition from science head teachers and their deputies. Head teachers that are science teachers and their deputies. So in the increment, they were not. So who is doing the planning? Who occasioned this kind of anarchy in planning? So head teachers that are science teachers are not science teachers. So we have a Ministry of Education and a huge planning department, planning chaos in the sector. Honorable Speaker, we have debated UPE and USE. I don't want to really bore the House. We do not even meet the regional average in subventing education. The regional is $15 per year. We are at $3 per year in UPE, per child per year. $3. The region is 15. We don't even spar with the region's weakest economies. Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this report. Sure. I'm trying to really go through very fast.
I have the minister and we have Prime Minister's time at 4 exactly.
My feedback, Honorable Speaker, is that the report should be looked at in its problematic nature as treating the symptoms of the problem. Because education is various, is expansive, and the school fees component speaks to the failure in understanding what education is about. We want to cap school fees. Do we have the cost outlay of what schools incur as costs? Have we capped their running costs, where we have a component as stakeholders? Honorable Speaker, you probably desire to speak more about this sector, but I want to imagine that the committee did not consider that this is a problematic area. That's why the minority had them for dinner. And I want to ask that the House ask the committee to go back. It's not late. This country is not going to end with us in the Parliament. They're going to go back and do a comprehensive report on financing education and even advice on attendant legislation and the key reforms in the sector. Right, Honourable Speaker.
Thank you.
Submit.
Thank you. Honourable Minister, 3 minutes. No? Minister, 3 minutes. Because at 4 exactly I have a Prime Minister.
Right, Honourable Speaker and honourable colleagues, first of all, I would like to begin by apologizing for coming in late. It's not intentional, but because I was following up some matters in line within the sector, and that's Nambole. So, right, Honourable Speaker, as far as the subject matter we are discussing is concerned, I have the following. Number one, first, as the Minister of Education and Sports, we take into consideration all the important views which honorable members have raised in this floor, and I want to begin by thanking Honorable Saro Pendi for having raised these important questions, which as a ministry, we have discussed them extensively, and we have thought Cabinet to take a position on most of the fundamental questions which all of us are raising as far as the subject matter is concerned. So I want to request that after Cabinet has taken a position, we will be able to come to this August House with a statement and also inform the entire country on what we need to do or what we are going to do as far as the subject matters are concerned. Number two, Right Honourable Speaker, I have heard some of the issues which have been raised here, which I want to specifically highlight the following. There is a member of my sister from Kumi. She talked about the matter of titling of school. This matter we handled with the foundation bodies yesterday. As a ministry, the First Lady met the religious leaders. We have discussed this matter. A committee has been set up. We will also come to this August House to give them the position of government on what we have agreed with the foundation bodies as far as issues of land are concerned. So I wanted that also to be informed to the August House. The other issue, Right Honorable Speaker, I want to say here is in line with one matter which Honorable Wanzala mentioned here about posting teachers. I'm aware, as of beginning of today, most of them are picking their posting instructions, letters. So, I want to inform you, as a ministry, we are working, and apologies for taking long, but most of them have started picking their posting letters. The other one, Right Honorable Speaker, which I want to address myself, is on a document, and I want to thank you so much for clarifying, which was read by my honorable colleague, Honorable Mboa. That document was approved by this August House. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, I'm aware that there are those all great schools which some of us would have loved to study, but we didn't because of our humble backgrounds. Let's be realistic. Some of those schools are very old. The structures in them needed government to renovate them. A case in point, I am happy I visited St. Mary's Kitovu, and I'm happy St. Henry's, and I'm happy the leader of opposition, if I'm not mistaken, is an OB. But I'm aware he's in his constituency. Am I correct?
But Honorable Boa, sorry, Honorable Peter, as you very well know, you gave a justification on the floor as the Minister of Education, and we approved the money for those schools. So don't repeat that justification.
So why I'm bringing this, because there's a tendency which is coming up. It's like we are only favoring those good schools when we actually approved the report here. So, Right Honorable Speaker, as far as the subject matter is concerned, I want to request and humbly beg the August House, we will come here formally, because all the matters which have been raised from the majority report and the minority report are part and parcel of the fundamental questions, which even us as government, we are discussing them, and we feel we must take a decision on them, and we shall request the support of Parliament. I thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, for giving me the information. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Honorable Chair, you have seen the mood in the House. Okay? You have seen the mood in the House. But also, when you're doing reports of such a nature, they should be national in character. That's the most important aspect. Colleagues, I'm going to use my prerogative. I request the committee to go back. Okay? You go back. You study this report again. You update it. You consider members' issues instead of me putting a vote on, and report back after 1 month, because we are having 2 weeks of recess. Okay? Procedure?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, with your indulgence, and I agree with your ruling. Honorable Speaker, in the matter of fairness, whenever members debate a report, the chair of a committee has to come out to dispute some wrong information that's given on the floor. For example, you are talking about these big schools, Honorable Speaker. The Committee of Education, leave alone the Budget Committee, has never recommended such. Secondly, a honorable member talked about Seta High School. That's not a government institution, and we cannot investigate on it. The minister, our chairpersons of these committees always should come back, and that's the procedure of Parliament, to dispute where they have given wrong information against the report. Because once you shoot the report down, signed by members, sometimes you don't feel comfortable.
You see,
Honorable Speaker, I pray that with your indulgence, if by your ruling you will allow the chair of the committee to correct wrong records on the record of Parliament from the Committee of Education, where it belongs as well.
Thank you. Now, Honorable, you see what I've done? I've given the report a new lease of life. You're going to come back and you present it. What you want to do is to ensure the record on Hansard is corrected. And I will give you time, whether it's an answer of today, whether it's an answer of 2 weeks to come, it will be an answer of Parliament, and it will be a record of Parliament. Now, I would have chosen another option of putting it on a vote, but sometimes I look at the mood, okay, and I don't want to deflate the committee. So please, on a surrogate procedure, people, we are in Prime Minister's time, so I want to use just a minute.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, it is high time that Parliament should look at the substance of the minority report with a bit of seriousness. We have the views of the majority of the committee contained in one document. And where they disagreed, but maybe the other group has looked at things differently, it is also presented. In my view, when we were debating, there appeared to have been consensus on the minority report. Why don't we approve the minority report? Because we are taking the food to be recooked by the same cook. Why don't we approve the minority report and prove that actually the minority people do their research, they are nationalistic, they are balanced, and we must begin to look at minority reports seriously. Yes.
Thank you. Now, honorable colleagues, we give minority reports very serious consideration. The other day when we were here debating the budget framework paper, it was me, the presiding officer, who proposed that we adopt both the minority and majority report, because the minority report had salient issues which were very important. Now, why the moment you pick out on the minority report, the mover or the publisher of the minority report has issues she agrees with in the majority report. Now, those issues will be dead right away if you knock out the majority report. She has only a few areas of dissent, and she has very many areas where she agrees with the committee. So we would have caused confusion picking out just a few areas where she accepts, and then we leave all others that are captured in the minority report. Then all other major areas she agrees with in the majority report would be gone. So that's why I'm giving a chance that the committee goes back, it harmonizes, and gets more information. You never know, because the minority report is clear on record. Then we shall put a vote that will cover both minority and majority at that time. Prime Minister's time.
Item
we are
7
in Prime Minister's time.
on the other paper.
Colleagues, rule 41 is very clear. But you can't seek clarification from the speaker, colleagues. Read rule 78.
Right Honorable Speaker.
Oh, let the clerk call the item. Right Honorable Prime Minister. Yeah.
Item 7 on the other paper, Prime Minister's time.
Right Honorable Prime Minister.
Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, the Honorable Nyamutoro Fiona, the National Female Youth MP, raised the following: that in accordance with the revised lower secondary school curriculum, all secondary schools are required to register with UNEB to be able to submit continuous assessment scores of their learners. Her prayer is that can I update the House on when the Uganda National Examination Board will embark on this exercise? Then B, how will schools conduct this exercise? Honorable Speaker and colleagues, my response is that the Uganda National Examination Board is embarking on a nationwide exercise of continuous assessment scores with effect from term 1 of 2023. The Ministry of Education and Sports, through the National Curriculum Development Center, rolled out the revised lower secondary school curriculum in the year 2020. One of the major components of the revised curriculum is continuous assessment, a school-based assessment. The first cohort or group of learners of this column is joining Senior 3 in 2023. Relatedly, secondary schools which will not have registered for continuous assessment will not be allowed by UNEB to register their learners for Uganda Certificate of Education examinations. UNEB will communicate to the schools on the modalities of submitting the continuous assessment scores to the board. The Honorable Speaker, schools registering for continuous assessment should have registered their learners on the Ministry of Education and Sports Education Information Management System. Accordingly, the ministry has now opened the Education Information Management System portal to enable schools to register their learners. Question number 2, Right Honorable Speaker, came from Honorable Kugizibwe Arid Ronald, Member of Parliament, Bururi County, Masindi District. That in the year 2015, Uganda held its first oil block auction, which included 2,674 square kilometer sized exploring regions. And before that, the country distributed blocks based on who arrived first. Ama Energy Limited of Australia and Oranto Petroleum of Nigeria took part in the first round. And they both later signed production sharing agreements with government. In 2019, the second round was announced, attracting Total, DGR Energy, Turaco, Uganda SMC Limited, Uganda National Oil Company Limited, and a joint venture of Petro Africa Energy Resource East Africa Limited, Uganda and Niger Delta Petroleum Resources Limited from Nigeria. However, according to him, only 2 oil and gas firms submitted bids, namely DGR Energy Toronto Uganda Limited and the Uganda National Oil Company Limited. Following successful negotiations, the 2 oil firms were approved. His prayer is that when will government effect the signing of production sharing agreements and award exploration licenses to the 2 oil companies that were approved. Honorable Speaker and colleagues, Cabinet approved the signing of production sharing agreements, and this is my response, and the grant of exploration licenses for an initial 2-year period of Uganda National Oil Company and DGR Energy Turaco Uganda Limited were given approved. UNOC will undertake operations in Kasurubani exploration area that stretches over 1,285 square kilometers, stretching between Bulisa and Pakwachi districts. This license was previously held by Taro, which made some discoveries. DGR, which owns another exploration license in areas of Kinyuataba, will be operating from Turaco Block, which is a 637 square kilometer exploration area located in Albertine Graben near the border with Congo in Ntoroko district. Heritage Oil, a British company, had done some exploration in the area but abandoned it in 2004. The block reverted to the government as per the laws that govern this country. The signing, Right Honorable Speaker, of the production sharing agreement for UNOC is scheduled to take place today, and I believe it has already taken place. Today, 2nd February 2023, while the one for DGL will be done in 2 weeks' time. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, the 2 exploration areas that were given out are part of the 5 blocks that the government auctioned in the second licensing round launched in the year 2019. The 3 which have not been given out are Avivi, 1,026 kilometers squared, Omuka, 750 kilometers, and Ngangi, 1,230 kilometers squared. Honorable Speaker, the question number 3 came from Honorable Achai Juliet, Member of Parliament, Ngora County, that Uganda has experienced road carnages in January 2023 and did so in December 2022, and many lives have been lost. Honorable Speaker, according to Honorable, the Uganda Police has a Directorate of Traffic and Road Safety, but their impact is not significant in safeguarding the lives of Ugandans on the road. Her prayer is that can I inform the House what measures the Directorate is putting in place to curb the road accidents? My response, Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, is that on behalf of government, we commiserate with the bereaved families who have lost their dear ones in road accidents. Government has put measures to curb the abuse of traffic laws and regulations. The Uganda Police Force, through its Directorate of Traffic and Road Safety, has come up with new operations targeting errant motorists. For example, no bus driver is allowed to drive if they do not have a badge with their details and route charts. 2, the owners of the buses are tasked to submit the particulars of their drivers to the Ministry of Works and Transport so that they can get badges after registration. Number 3, every bus driver on the road is expected to display his photo in the bus and move with a copy of the badge that has his photo, name, driving license number, classes of the permit displayed, and the company he or she is working with. These measures are to ensure that the driver is fit and proper to be instructed with their lives, to be entrusted with the lives of the passengers, because most non-qualified drivers have been the cause of most of the accidents. Honorable colleagues, Honorable Speaker and colleagues, the operation also targets drivers of other vehicles and motorcyclists who do not have up-to-date driving permits. For the victims arrested, they will be issued with express penalty services tickets that cost 40,000 shillings for motorcycles and 100,000 shillings for other motorists. I call upon honorable members and the general public to observe traffic rules and regulations as required to avoid death in road accidents. Number 4, the Honorable Court Boniface, Youth Representative Northern Region, that according to the new vision of Tuesday 17th January 2023, over 32 private universities are to be closed over failure to acquire charter from the National Council of Higher Education, yet these universities were licensed by government. In that the universities employ many Ugandans and have contributed to the development of the critical human resource capital, which contributes to the development of this country. His prayer is that can I update this House on this matter? Honorable Speaker, colleagues, this is my response. And that government values education for both human resource capital and economic development. And government also appreciates the fact that private universities do complement the work of public universities. Section 82E, subsection 3 of the National Council of Higher Education requires any licensed university to apply for a charter after 3 years of operation. A charter, by law, is granted to any university that has demonstrated a high quality of staffing, teaching, learning, research output, extension services, infrastructure development, and good governance, among others. Honorable Speaker, the other tertiary institutions are accredited after service of inspection and visitations. The applying institution must have adequate physical resources, financial resources, viable programs, adequate qualified staff, and structures of governance to deliver quality education. The universities identified were given till March this year to apply for registration and charter. Failure to do so, Right Honorable Speaker, they will not be allowed to operate. These are dictates of the law. However, National Council of Higher Education has conducted inspection visits to all the affected universities to ascertain their progress and advise on how to expedite the process of charter acquisition. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, most of these universities have operated for over 10 years on provisional licenses. A few of these universities have submitted their applications and the related documents. As a result, some areas of weakness have been identified, which the universities must address before a charter is granted. Even those operating on provisional licenses within the stated 3 years given by law must submit their roadmap for fulfilling the requirements needed to the council to accompany their application for the charter. The other tertiary institutions operating on provisional licenses should as well apply for accreditation by March this year to avoid closure. The Honorable Member of Parliament from Kiriandongo, Honorable Helen Kaunde, has a prayer. And she says, what is the status of implementation of enforcement of the law on importation, manufacture, distribution, and use of plastic carrier bags to protect the environment and natural resources in Uganda? Honorable Speaker, my response is that the plastic industry is a very important industry to the Ugandan economy, most especially at this critical time of industrialization, the developing of oil and gas sector, value addition, and striving to integrate in global markets. Plastics are applied in packaging, construction, automobile, furniture, electronics, and healthcare systems. To date, over 80% of the goods and products manufacturers in Uganda and world over use plastic packaging. Honorable Speaker and colleagues, however, the way plastics, especially single-use plastics, that is plastic bottles, plastic carrier bags, drinking straws, disposable plastic plates and cups, are disposed after use, litters the environment and should be properly managed. The plastic waste can cause economic damage to activities such as tourism, fisheries, soils, and affect human health throughout the food chain. Government through Parliament enacted the National Environment Act in 2019 with a provision to regulate the production and use of plastics to mitigate the health and environmental problems that arise as a result of the use of plastic products. Government, through the Ministry of Water and Environment, has taken the following actions, among others, to enforce the Act. All plastics manufacturing factories were directed by the ministry to establish recycling facilities to deal with plastic waste generated in the factory and externally generated plastics waste. Over 50 recycling facilities have been established, Right Honorable Speaker. This reduces on importation of virgin plastic raw materials in this country. 2, all plastic packaging products must be clearly labeled with the manufacturer's details and certified by Uganda National Bureau of Standards for compliance to the 30% micron thickness and other specifications in the national standard for plastic carrier bags products. The manufacturers were advised to form an association, Right Honorable Speaker, to provide a platform for engagement with stakeholders and information sharing among stakeholders. The Uganda Plastic Carrier Bags Manufacturers and Recyclers Association has been able to mobilize her members to support a public awareness program on TVs and radio stations on proper plastic waste disposal, collection, sorting, cleaning, and delivery to the recycling factories. Honorable Speaker, the question number 6 was a question from Honorable Lillian Abel, the district woman MP Kitgum district. Her point is on Friday 27th January 2023, Uganda National Examination Board released the primary living examination PLE results for the academic year 2022. A total of 1,179.53 candidates did not get the required grades to join secondary education. Among them were 109 candidates who were ungraded, and 20,844 candidates had Division X. Both groups were below 4th grade, which is the minimum grade with which one can join secondary education. Her prayer, Right Honorable Speaker, is that may I inform this August House on government's plan for the 117,953 candidates. Right Honorable Speaker, my response is that government introduced free Uganda primary education program so that the children of Uganda can attain basic education and skills. Out of 832, 654 candidates who sat PLE last year, 714,702 candidates qualified to join Senior 1. 117,953 did not qualify. The failure to attain the required grades is attributed to the adverse effects of COVID-19 pandemic that forced schools to be on and off due to the lockdown. The candidates who did not attain required grades to join secondary schools have several options to take. The immediate option is for them to repeat the class and sit for the primary leaving examination for the academic year 2023. Secondly, the government encourages the parents of the candidates who failed PLE to enroll them in other training and skilling programs. Government has in place the formal and non-formal vocational education system in which they can enroll. The non-formal vocational system caters for ungraded students and those who fail to sit referred to as absentees. They enroll in technical institute for a modular course in a program of their choice. There are over 500 modular programs assessed at over 300 assessment centers under the technical and vocational education and training subsector. The programs include art and design, tailoring, science-related vocational occupations in the field of agriculture, technology, among others. Honorable Speaker and colleagues, for example, a child who attains a modular transcript related to agriculture in any of the above vocational programs qualifies to join agriculture-related program at a vocational school for 6 months, which will be equated to primary 7. The non-formal education assessment of candidates is by the Directorate of Industrial Training under the Ministry of Education and Sports. A child is awarded a modular transcript which is equivalent to PLE certificate under Uganda Vocational Qualification Framework, which is provided for under Business, Technology, Vocational Education and Training Act of 2008. Hence, a recognized qualification under Section 20 of the Act. With such a certificate, a child qualifies to join formal vocational education. It is therefore imperative to note that a child with PLE certificate or a modular transcript can either join a technical school or a vocational school where they study for 3 years and get Uganda Junior Technical Certificate equivalent to USE. The Uganda Junior Technical Certificate is awarded by Uganda Business and Technical Examination Board, a body under the Ministry of Education and Sports. At the same level, a child can obtain Level 1 certificate under Uganda Vocational Qualification Framework, awarded by the Directorate of Industrial Training under the Ministry of Education and Sports. The child can progress and get Level 2 and 3 certificate, which comes with experience. Hence, the child can either join the world of work or can proceed to a technical institute for further upgrading. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, with Level 3, a student can join a technical institute and study for 2 years, after which they are awarded a national certificate by Uganda Business and Technical Examination Board, UBTEB. This certificate is equivalent to Uganda Advanced Certificate of Education. This makes the journey of schooling to obtain practical skills shorter compared to the generic school system. Lastly, Right Honorable Speaker, government intends to allow vocational students to progress from the lower level up to university level. Soon, government will introduce a national technical university that shall see this dream come true, so that we produce human resource capital with skills that address our contemporary challenges in the modern economic setup. In the same vein, government offers 2,400 bursaries annually to the children who join community polytechnic and technical schools. There are 20 polytechnical and technical schools spread across the country. Each of these has 60 slots for students under government sponsorship. Right Honorable Speaker, it is therefore imperative to teach our communities that failing to pass the formal education examination is never the end of life, and also encourage them to embrace vocational and technical education. Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to move.
Thank you. Thank you. Right Honorable Prime Minister, we have our 35 minutes. Now, colleagues, I want us to see a way we can squeeze in, because at 5, there are critical issues which we should have started with that I want us to give more attention. So, but since 4 to 5 p.m. is Prime Minister's time, let's utilize it. But you will allow me, I start with colleagues who had registered issues of national importance, and I promise them I'll give them first priority. Okay? I request you allow me on that. Honorable Moses Kabusu, let's use 1 minute strictly. 1 minute. I know you can ask a question directly, and 1 minute for an answer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, mine is a matter of national importance.
We are in Prime Minister's time.
Yes.
Ask a question straight
Okay.
out. Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, it relates to Chamswa Health Center 4. This Health Center 4, Mr. Speaker, is not operational at a level of Health Center 4. It has no medical officer. It has no operational theater. The theater equipment that were procured by the ministry are still held at the ministry. The UPDF in 2021 February rehabilitated and handed over to us the theater, but even up to now it is inhabited by bats. Is there any hope that this health center 4 will ever operate?
Right Honorable Prime Minister.
Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, now that I'm armed with colleagues who are here with answers, I request the Honorable Minister of Health to answer that question since he's around.
Okay.
Right Honorable Speaker, allow me to appreciate the Honorable Member for the question. Making a health center 4 operational.
Can you raise your voice a little bit, Honorable Minister?
Operationalizing a health center 4 is not only about the structure. It needs the structure, the human resources, and the money. And all this is in progress. I only request that you be a little patient. It will be completed.
Thank you.
I thank you.
Now, with your permission, Right Honorable Prime Minister, and in the interest of time, if the minister is around, can I call the minister straight to answer for you? Okay? Because some of these were matters of national importance. Okay. Rwampara, Honorable Simwe.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I rise on a matter of national importance.
Prime Minister's time, question straight.
Okay. My question is about Rwampara has sand deposits, and recently we've been bombarded by Sino trucks that come to ferry these sands. And the Sino trucks are so heavy, and they spoil the roads, they break the culverts, and it's difficult for us. We don't know under which rule or regulation to stop them or to regulate them. So my prayer or request is how can we get these people to get involved in the amending of road on the roads that they destroy, and how can we even regulate their mining, because they leave places open and unproductive.
Thank you. Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Right Honourable Speaker, I've taken note of her concern, and I am going to request the ministry and ask the Ministry of Local Government, the Ministry of Works, to go on ground and see how to help, because that's a resource that is helping us develop our country. But on the other hand, the corporate social responsibility from these companies that are mining this sand, and help the local government to see how to get money from these companies and work on their roads.
Honorable Charangat.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, in 2021-2022, government, through U-Gift, a project funded by World Bank, constructed 2 health center tools. They constructed an OPD and a maternity ward. A contractor was procured towards the end of 2022, and that is exactly around May. So the works were done by the contractor. By the end of the financial year, all the monies were swept back to the treasury. As we talk now, first quarter is done, second quarter is done, and the works have stopped. I don't know, Honorable Speaker, what is the fate of those 3 health centers? Because now as we talk, the works have stopped and it is about to rain.
Thank you.
And once it rains, those works will not proceed.
Honorable, your question is clear. What is the fate of the health centers? We shoot straight so that we allow more members.
Right Honorable Speaker, the Ministry of Health does not construct health center tools. I need to find out from the Honorable Member what he's referring to. I thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Dr. Kamara. Sorry, Doctor. The Prime Minister wants to supplement.
Cabinet came up with a decision and said that all the monies that were taken by government as the financial year was concluding or was ending, Cabinet directed the Minister of Finance to resend the money to the districts, and I believe that district will also receive this money.
Thank you. Honorable Dr. Kamara.
In May 2021, Kavale municipality entered a contract with Multiplex company to repair roads under USMID project in Kavale municipality. It was supposed to end in May 2022. It has been extended. It was extended to September 2022. Again extended to January 2023. Now I hear they are going to extend it again to March 2023. After extending it for this long, only 17% of the works have been completed. what is the minister intending to do to help the people of Kabale municipality and put this contractor in order? Thank you.
Right Honorable Prime Minister. We are asking questions to the Prime Minister, colleagues.
Right Honorable Speaker, I find this strange, and therefore, since the minister, state minister is here, I direct him to go to Kabale and find out what is taking place, and two, to also find out from his ministry. Bigger Kanya is here, so I believe he has taken the directive.
And please take note. Honorable Court.
Right Honorable Prime Minister, despite our anti-narcotics laws, there is a new wave of a pandemic of drug abuse that is eating up our young people, both in and out of schools, with many of these drug trafficking cartels selling disguised drugs and narcotics. Right Honorable Prime Minister, can you give this House the assurance of safety and measures that government is taking to ensure our schools that start on Monday, our communities and borders are illicit drug-free?
Honorable Peter.
Right Honorable Speaker, we have a regulating body, UNBS, that does this work on behalf of government. I want to also request the schools, the parents, and all of us Ugandans to take this matter seriously, because it touches the moral fiber of our children and the country. So UNBS will definitely do the needful, but we also, as parents, need to help our children to grow up morally upright.
Thank you. Honorable Deke.
Thank you. Right Honorable Prime Minister, today the world celebrates World Wetlands Day, and for Uganda, it's actually underway, the World Wetlands Day, this second day of February. As has been the practice with other international days, the minister in charge usually brings a statement to the House to give the members a chance to debate, to just hear government's position regarding the particular issues. This has not been the case for World Wetlands Day. The Minister of the Environment has not brought a statement here. And secondly, the celebrations are underway right now in Soroti District. It's unfortunate that we learnt about it yesterday. So, Right Honourable Prime Minister, is it courteous for government to celebrate in our constituencies and not inform us as members of parliament from those constituencies? And then secondly, has it been proper that a matter as contentious as wetlands, an issue as contentious as that one, is being celebrated without the members of parliament being given a chance to hear government's position on the same?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Right Honourable Speaker and colleagues, from the briefs I get through the leader of government business technical staff, I saw yesterday that the minister, the Honourable Beatrice Anywa, gave a statement yesterday in this house. And two, let me also inform you that as she was going to Soroti, she got an accident, but she's out of danger. She was going to Soroti today morning. She got an accident, she informed me, but she's out of danger. However, I want to once again reiterate the need for us, the honorable ministers, to always inform our colleagues that you are going to their constituencies. We have the speaker, the current presiding speaker, has always directed us to do it. It costs nothing for you to inform a colleague that you are going to our constituency. I have always done it, whether it is whether it is a constituency from of an opposition member or NRM.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Right, Honorable, you can repeat that in cabinet when you're in cabinet, so that your ministers, all of them, really get this serious. Honorable Nwagaba.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I wanted to know whether the Prime Minister is aware that her Minister of State for Lands, one Sam Mayanja, who is actually known for having battles with the Uganda Land Board, like his former minister in Tumasambu, yesterday wrote a letter to all district chairpersons suspending district land boards. And yet the Constitution and the Land Act gives the district land boards autonomy, not under the control or direction of any person or authority. And in that letter, he has gone ahead to suspend all land transactions countrywide. Of course, it is outrightly unconstitutional, it's fraudulent, and I've talked to 5 district land chairpersons. I've told them to ignore this letter with the contempt it deserves. But is the Prime Minister aware about this particular letter that usurps not only the constitutional provisions, but also the powers of the district land boards, which are independent of each other? And if she is aware, can she call her minister to order and apologize to the country by withdrawing this letter that is outrightly unconstitutional, illegal, null, and void?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Right, Honourable Speaker and Honourable colleagues, the fact is I'm not yet aware, and I request that you give me time to go and find out under which circumstances the minister acted that way. Then 2, I also want you to take note that these land boards are approved by the Ministry of Lands. So I don't know how we can balance the boat, but I request that you give me time. I will come back here and report.
Sure. Honorable Mamawi.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, we have Amelo Polytechnic Institute, which is in a Juman East constituency, and its construction started in 2013. And as I speak now, this is 2023. 10 years down the road, the construction is not finished, and Amelo is housed in Olea Farm Institute in a Juman district. Right Honourable Speaker, I want assurance why government take long, all this long, 10 years down the road to construct only one institute. Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker.
Thank you. Right Honourable Prime Minister. And as you come, it seems there are members are saying there are many cases of that nature.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. First of all, I have got the information, like I did get one the other time again, Mochwini Pajongo from Kitgum. I visited that institute, and I want to inform the August House, the MP is here, she can attest to it, that we are going to post teachers and also to complete the construction of that technical institute. For this one, I am picking up the matter here, Right Honourable Speaker, and I want to interest the member that let me get your details and I follow it up with you at the Ministry of Education and Sports.
It's cross-cutting. Even Kazo is raising the same.
Maybe I then want to pass a message to the entire August House that we have for this side of the house, we have the government chief whip here. For the other side of the house, I'm happy that both the LOP and the government, the opposition whip, are close friends for purposes of serving our people. Maybe if we could get that information, we would follow it and bring the answers in line with each of those technical institutes which have not been completed. I thank you so much.
Thank you. Honourable Minister, I would also guide that once you reach in the ministry, call for a report from your technical people. Status report on the construction of all these technical schools.
Most obliged, right,
And it
Honorable
will be
Speaker.
easier
Thank you.
for you that. Thank you. Honorable Mwezo.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. On the 13th day of November, over 2,000 UPDF soldiers were taken to Somalia for peacekeeping mission. They returned back on the 31st day of December last year, hoping to receive their allowances. Unfortunately, some of them have died. Some of them have died without getting this money. Right Honorable Prime Minister, when are these people getting their funds?
Thank you.
When are they getting their allowances?
Thank you. Your minister is here, Minister for Defense. Help the Prime Minister.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. The Honorable colleague has raised that now this is the second time in a spite of 2 weeks. I had thought I gave him the answer, but let me be on record. The soldiers who were in Somalia, it's true, they came back and have not been paid. This is not the first time that is happening, because the whole mission is funded by AU, and so the AU has not sent the money. When they send the money, the government will pay them.
Thank you.
And the issue of death, Right Honorable Speaker, even those who did not go to Somalia still die of other natural causes.
Honorable Soru.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. My concern is about the UNRWA road status in Arua City. Most of the roads have become very impassable. It's about 3 to 4 years that some of our roads have not been worked on. For instance, roads like Oluko Chod Road, Manibewandi Yumbe Road, then Adumi Road via Lear, Customs. Right Honorable Speaker, most of the trucks these days, they fall off with people's goods as they keep transporting people's goods to the border. I would want to know from the Prime Minister, what are the fates of those roads? And even His Excellency, I remember this is about 3 terms now. He has made this regarding these UNRWA roads in Arua City. For instance, the Manibe Wandi Yumbe Road, but till date, it has not been implemented. Shall we really consider it to be implemented? Thank you.
Right Honorable Prime Minister.
Right Honorable Speaker, we shall investigate that matter and come up with a concrete answer, but I wanted members to note that national roads across the country are given priority when it comes to funding. Arua is not exceptional, and we shall work on those roads. As long as the NRM government is still in power, we are accredited to working on roads, and we shall work on those roads.
Honorable Laino Singopek. Honorable Laino Singopek.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Dear Right Honorable Prime Minister, on 27th July 2001, we hosted the Minister of State for Tourism in one of our animal trouble areas, corridors, in Karuma Game Reserve, Makshon Falls National Park. And he promised that government would install an electric fence because we have wildlife-human conflict. Just on last Saturday, a mother of 6, Betty Kiden, was killed by a herd of elephants, and we buried her. My prayer.
Question.
Okay, my question is, when is government fast-tracking the installation of this electric fence? Then 2, we also hope that government should compensate the families of these people who have lost their lives and properties in those areas in Bunyoro. Or else we shall eat the animals.
Thank you. Right Honourable Prime Minister. And as you're coming, we are many. Kurudi my woman MP Mitoma. Elephants are giving us a headache. When are you intervening?
Right Honourable Speaker and colleagues, you are aware that this Parliament appropriated money to work on electric fences across the country. I will just request the Minister for Tourism to come here and give us an update. But also, you are aware that we are supposed to compensate those people who fall victims. And the Ministry, the Attorney General is here. Please come and help us, update us on how this man or this woman can be compensated.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable. Thank you very much, Right Honourable. Linus can help his constituent by filing a formal claim with us. Then we shall engage the relevant ministry and see how to help her.
Thank you. Honourable Baran Mayanja.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right to you, Honourable Prime Minister. Our farmers in the country are suffering with fake agricultural inputs like fake fertilizers, fake pesticides, which are being sold on the market. And the Speaker guided on 30th of November 2022 the line minister to bring a comprehensive statement about this matter. When is it coming? Because our farmers are suffering a lot.
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Right Honourable Speaker, I will only request you to give us time so that the Minister can come up with that report because it's ready.
When we resume, we shall give it priority. Honourable Singoma.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Prime Minister, the people of Hoima City are thankful that we now have a fully operational CT scan within Hoima Referral Hospital. However, Right Honourable Prime Minister, the drugs which are supposed to operationalize the scan are not there. They are there. There are special drugs which are supposed to be used for the CT scan to be properly operational. So my question therefore is, when can we have these drugs, stroke reagents, which are required? Two, Right Honourable Prime Minister, the CT scan is now depending on the services of a radiographer. But preferably, I think the right person should have been a radiologist. We cannot recruit the radiologist because of the wage. There is no wage provision. How do we move forward on that matter? Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Honourable Minister for Health, that you should help the Prime Minister.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, the issue of the CT scans does not only affect Hoima Regional Referral Hospital, it is across all the 16 regional referral hospitals. I think the biggest issue we should start with is the issue of power. You're asking for consumables and human resources, but the power in the hospitals cannot run the CT scans. And we have been discussing this with the committees, Right Honourable Speaker, that the issue of the power has to be addressed. The single phase connections cannot run the CT scans. However, the issue of consumables and human resources have been captured in the coming financial year. It will be addressed.
Thank you. Honourable Minister, next time before buying those machines, first ensure that you have the infrastructure. But that's it. But Right Honourable Prime Minister, take up this matter so that we don't have white elephants when people need these services. Honorable Komakesh Christopher.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honorable Prime Minister, in March last year, your able minister, Honorable Both, came to my constituency to address an issue of the UPDF evicting people in Akemokoch. And he did so well, he stopped the eviction. January this year, 18th, the brigadier commander evicted widows who belonged to former soldiers of UPDF. Around 7 families have been evicted, and they are given 3 days to leave Akemokoch land. It took the indulgence of the area councillor to negotiate with the brigadier commander, and he promised to give the ladies, the widows, 10 pieces of iron sheets and 10 bags of cement. Now, Article 21 in the Supreme Constitution says that there should be equality. All we are asking for, Right Honorable Prime Minister, can we compensate the widows so that they can leave the land that they were inherited for? And secondly, Mr. Speaker, the people of Pade are waiting for the Prime Minister to come and do some fishing in Aru County. So they are also wondering. They
write an invitation to her. Honourable Minister for Defence. Honourable Minister for Defence. Clerk, set 1 minute for the questions, please.
Thank you, Honorable Christopher Komakech, for the kind words about when I came to Pade. It is unfortunate that that is happening. We've taken note, and I thought I would have had a concrete, more direct commitment to you. You know how we do it, because you know he's a son of the late general. So there's a way we treat you. And believe me that the solution will be found. But I can't make a commitment here on how.
It seems you two people have a connection. Please go and sort that issue.
Thank you.
Honorable Nambeshe.
Right, Honorable Prime Minister, my question is about the cost of maintaining the oil rigs which are operated in the Albertine Graben by Sinok in the Kingfisher area. And of course, 2 weeks ago, or slightly above, they were commissioned with the razzmatazz and a pump. But these are idle oil rigs. They are only set up when the wells are ready for, oil wells are ready for drilling. And they consume about, on average, Mr. Speaker, sir, 500,000 USD per day. So my question, which requires guidance from the Prime Minister, and moreover more, are to be set up in Teleng. The question is, could the Prime Minister, could you please guide us on these costs, idle costs that government is incurring on maintaining these idle oil rigs?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Right, Honourable Speaker and colleagues, 2 weeks ago, the President, the able President of this country, commissioned the reeds, one of the reeds. Most of them are going to be operational. And I have a lot of confidence that the experience the President has in oil, because it is only this government, it is only this government, the NRM government, that has been able, yes, even if it is 60, yes, it is the one that discovered this oil, and we credit. Yes.
Prime Minister, please answer.
I want to assure my brother that these costs will be met. And Mr. Speaker, please protect me.
Please, Right Honorable, but also don't open your ears to those who are off record.
Okay, Right Honorable Speaker, we have taken note and we shall handle accordingly.
Gomba.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Prime Minister, the Ministry of Finance has consistently and forcefully now frustrated local governments. Through you, Right Honorable Prime Minister, as we are being sent for 2 weeks, as we are speaking right now, Ministry of Finance has refused to pick the budget activities for the different districts. Sub-counties are stuck. We are going to open schools. The grant that we normally give schools, we are going for these 2 frustrating weeks that the Right Honorable Speaker has given us for the PDM. But we are going to find all these pending issues through you, Right Honorable Prime Minister. Could you please, or the question could be, how are you going to where Ministry of Finance has frustrated local governments, and we are going to the districts where districts are not functioning at all. Through you, Right Honorable Prime Minister, could you please help us with Ministry of Finance? You either guide them, or I wouldn't use order. Through you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Right Honorable Prime Minister.
Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues.
Colleagues, can I request you stop coming here to give me time to do my work? Okay? Right Honorable Prime Minister.
The Ministry of Finance is already directed by Cabinet to make sure that the PDM funds are channeled through up to the SACCO accounts. And I want to report, Right Honorable Speaker, that recently we got a report that almost all districts have received this money. Now that you are going down there, please go and find out whether what the reports we are getting are the correct reports.
Thank you.
Then,
no, we don't have clarification under Prime Minister's time, colleagues, please. Thank you. Right Honorable Prime Minister, just to inform you, Mitoma has not received it. Bushenyi, which is Honorable Magazi's district, I was in on Monday with Honorable Cheru, they haven't received it. So, but you received the reports from the ground. Honorable Baiga, on Prime Minister's time, no procedure. Honorable Baiga.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Students of Makerere University who are in the 72nd congregation, even those of the 71st congregation, have never received their university certificates or their transcripts. And they have been frequenting Makerere University to have their transcripts and the university certificates done. Would the Prime Minister tell us what is happening and how this is going to be alleviated? Thank you.
Right Honorable Prime Minister.
Through you, Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, the Minister of Education is directed, I'm directing you, to go to Makerere University and make sure that our students receive their transcripts.
Honorable Tungo.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues. Aware that schools are opening on Monday, there is a major concern that study materials for students who are joining Senior 3 are not yet delivered in schools. And the information from the corridors that the suppliers of Senior 2 and Senior 1s were not paid. So, Right Honorable Prime Minister, can you help us and explain how this new curriculum is going to be taught when the study materials are not yet in schools. Thank you.
Minister of Education, the Prime Minister is calling you.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. First of all, Honorable Itungo is a member of the Committee of Education and Sports. He knows some of this, and I will bring a report to the House on the subject matter he has said. I thank you.
No, Honorable Minister, the member is saying schools are opening on Monday. So now we are reporting back in 2 weeks' time, so, and there are no materials.
Right Honorable Speaker, I want to confirm that it is true, like all other sectors are having challenges of releases from means of finance. So as far as payment of suppliers are concerned, it's one issue which we are battling with as a sector. So how I wish the Prime Minister could direct finance to release the money and we pay the suppliers.
Prime Minister, can you direct?
I thank you so much.
Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, I will next week, as a matter of fact, cause a meeting between the Ministry of Finance and Education, like we did this morning for the Ministry of Health, as you guided, so we can come up with an amicable solution toward this issue.
Thank you. Right Honorable, it would be good tomorrow because schools are opening on Monday. That's a tricky bit of it, but I know you will handle. Honorable Angura.
Right Honorable Prime Minister, disaster hit Tororo, where we experienced a hailstorm as big as this table. That lasted for more than 2 weeks, destroying every livestock that was found hanging around, but also food crops. I requested here that you support the people of Tororo with the planting material, restock, as among others. When shall we get cassava cuttings, potato vines, and seeds for planting, and even the livestock?
Right Honorable. Honorable Anyakun. We also need cement.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, and I want to thank my able Prime Minister for answering some of these questions. Right Honorable, we are going to discuss this with the Minister of Agriculture to be able to give some supplements to some of these affected people, but at least we responded to the immediate response that we needed in Tororo as guided.
Thank you. Honorable Nancy Achola.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Prime Minister, last year in October, the first week, I asked you to help the people of Lamour District to elevate Padibe Health Center 4 to General Hospital. I want to say thank you because Ministry of Health sent the team and they did assessment. And you also promised the people of Lamour on this floor of Parliament that you're going to use money from Dr. Deep to raise Padibe Health Center 4 to a General Hospital. After the assessment was done, up to now, my people, they thought we were going to get that elevation through the commissioning, through your able Minister of Health as a Christmas gift. But up to now, we haven't got any feedback. And I want to stand here to still ask you, since the Minister is available, so that the people of Lamour get the feedback.
Right Honorable Prime Minister. Christmas is in December.
Right Honorable Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, of course elevation is a process. Now that the technical team came on ground, you just have to be patient. Dr. Deep, maybe the unfortunate thing is phasing out, but we shall come together, you and me, and the Minister for Northern Uganda, sit and agree on how to prioritize There are more.
Thank
But
you.
the Minister of Health is here.
No, right, Honorable. I think that's sufficient enough.
Okay.
Yeah, Jonathan Odur, Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question to the Prime Minister is, why is government reluctant to enforce the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substance Control Act in the face of increasing production, sale and abuse of marijuana, otherwise known as cannabis?
Right, Honorable. We have the Attorney General here.
Right, Honorable Speaker, passing a law is a commitment, and it is in our NDA act, bill that is coming on this floor of Parliament. We shall handle.
Thank you. Honorable Flavia Rabhoro, and then Rob.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, Ewan Ruhuma Ruganda since 2008 has harassed the communities and the occupants of Kivira Ward, which is in Kakabara Town Council in Kegegwa District, claiming that he has a land title and he wants to evict 5 villages with more than 1,000 occupants with the title he claims and he has never shown to any of us. Right Honorable Speaker, I would like to ask the Right Honorable Prime Minister whether she wouldn't instruct that the Minister of Lands comes to the locus to understand about this title that he claims belonged to his grandmother, the title of 1928, Block 39, Plot 2, Kivira land, so that we...
Question?
My question is whether the Prime Minister wouldn't instruct the Minister of Lands to come to the locus and establish the facts on these matters, so that my people are safe and they can continue with their development programs.
Right Honorable Prime Minister.
Right Honorable Speaker, the district of Chegegwa is lucky. They have the Attorney General, and I believe the Attorney General is a custodian of law. I want to direct that the Attorney General, the Deputy Attorney General, gets that problem quickly, and the Minister of Lands is also directed to go on site to see how to help our people. Lastly, Right Honorable Speaker, we have the bona fide law where nobody in Uganda can be threatened of eviction. And the RDCs are always on alert to make sure that our people are not threatened with any evictions. Yes. And by the way, because of that alertness, the number has gone down, and I want to request my sister and the Deputy Attorney General to help our communities. If that man is a genuine owner of that title, let it be brought to the ministry for compensation. We compensate that man, and our people get titles on their land and ownership.
Lop.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I'll be very brief. The Right Honorable Prime Minister violated a unwritten cardinal law of courtesy by not supplying her written answers to the leader of the opposition. And I hope she takes note of that. That's no bar to my response, though. But as a matter of courtesy, I beg that she's always done it. I don't know this time around whether she never thought that the courtesy works. 3 issues from the written questions, and I'll be very brief on them, Right Honorable Speaker. The question of private universities, Right Honorable Speaker, that are threatened with closure because of being uncharted. First of all, about education. We have a huge challenge with tertiary education. And as a key stakeholder, the National Council for Education, the National Council for Education Act needs review to include, among others, to capture the proliferation of private universities, because the regulations to start are a bit lax. So you are free to start, and they are free to close you tomorrow. But in doing so, you endanger the future of so many young people, so many people that would have enrolled with you. But true, unrelatedly, in amending the law, the role of government in education needs to be seen more. The imagination is that because they are private universities, they are offering private education. There's no private education, there are no private citizens. So the role of government needs to be seen more in this sector, like it is everywhere. I think that the Prime Minister did not offer justice to this question. I would have heard, if I were the Prime Minister, I would have offered more plausible, reliable answers, because these are not private citizens, they are Ugandans in private universities. A policy on support, I recollect, over the last 10 years, government has been consistently supporting, by way of subvention and students, a university, I don't have to mention, with several students and paying their fees. So what happens to the others? Because it's this institution on which they thrive, to be able to hire professors, because one of the roadblocks to chartering, human resource and infrastructure. Right, Honourable Prime Minister, you have a huge void in this sector. You need to look at the policy without necessarily blaming and condemning these institutions to closure, because the consequences on human resource, on employment, are so huge. Two, the question raised by the Honourable Lilian Abel about PLE results, I'm afraid the Prime Minister handled it casually. First of all, by now, I would have expected a detailed statement from the Minister of Education on PLE results. By simply advising parents, by giving them seven options, go to this, go to vocational, go this, it's not enough. Honourable Speaker, teachers have been disoriented. We know, for example, that government promised schools closer to parents and children. The schools remain a pipe dream. Do we know, for example, why there are more failures in government schools than private schools? The Prime Minister said that the reason for failure is because of COVID. Did COVID single out children in private schools, in government schools, and left private schools alone? So it's not COVID. The problem is different. Go for it. Otherwise, the sector still begs answers. Children go hungry at school. They're hungry. The Vice President issued a statement last week. Go to school with nothing. You have no demand, just take the kids to school. Those blank statements disorient education. We must go back to the basics. Without being populist, we need to rethink this sector and help our children. How do we have children go hungry at school, and we encourage parents not to part with 10,000 for food, and instead part with 30,000 to go and report to the RDC? So where's the balance? It's a big problem, Prime Minister. Please don't run away from it. Right, Honourable Speaker, we expect on resumption the Minister for Education to come to the House and explain the raising failures and the dropouts. 1.8 enrolled in primary 1, only 800 completed P7. Where are these children? Honourable Speaker. Thirdly, the question raised by the Honourable Kabusu about the problem over the health center in Kalangala could have been supplied with a more cogent answer from my sister, the minister. He needed probably a timeline. We are processing the BFP and consequently the budget. Is it one of them? Because it's a facility in a hard-to-reach area. Members need assurance, especially when they are coming from highly vulnerable communities like Kalangala. Assurances in terms of timelines calm people's nerves. I know the Honourable Minister for Health is a very sensitive person and cares. Please do more on this question. Probably the Honourable Member should come to you and get more assurance that in the BFP and the final documents of the ministry, this facility is included. The question raised by the Honourable, by the Land Attorney General on my side, about the statements of the statement issued by the Honourable Minister for Lands, State for Lands. The Prime Minister believes that since the approval is done by the ministry, so there's no problem. Approval is not control. Parliament approves the Auditor General, the IGG, we don't control them. This minister has been seen frolicking all over the place, making statements uncoordinated. I think the Prime Minister needs to rein into this minister. He's attacking individuals, the institutions, the Kavaka. And when you don't rein into him, we believe it's the policy of government, the position of government. So the Honorable Sam Mayanja needs to be reined into. Otherwise, he's going to raise unnecessary sentiments among his people when actually he's frolicking on his own, out of his appetite and happiness for being a minister, as if he's the first minister. Lastly, Right Honourable Speaker. Oh, second last. The question of frustrating local governments raised by the Honourable Member from Gomba remains pertinent. And sometimes I feel pity to comrades here because they come from suffering local governments. Actually, you are now dealing with the fossils, not local governments, remains of local governments. The government has since decentralized. Control is back at the center. This House of Parliament has to rethink whether the planning, the budgeting is still localized. The governments are dead. How do you send 1 million to a district to do roads? I was in Budiope, Right Honourable Speaker, over the weekend for a burial. And the leaders there are all NRM. They were calling out to me to rescue them. They were desperate. Of course, I promised a rescue in the immediacy. They are saying we are doing nothing. We received one local sub-county chairperson said we received 500,000 to do roads. And we were muting us whether we should sit and share it out and go home, and everyone goes on their own. It's terrible. So, Prime Minister, there are no local governments. You have fossils. There remains, you can find them there wherever you go. They don't have resources. You took them back. Return the money to the local government and they function. Study materials for Senior 3. This matter has been canvassed several here, Honourable Speaker. And one of the challenges is that even up to now, the teachers were not trained. Several teachers have never been oriented in this curriculum. That Honourable Prime Minister, you may want to do this House a favour and table to this House of Parliament the number of teachers that have received training from both private and public schools. You'll be shocked. Secondly, even the curriculum still has challenges. The review should have been very regular. You remember our advice on sequencing and cascading? We are in a hurry to impress. So education must be delicately handled. This is a problem, Right Honourable Prime Minister. You need to rise to the occasion. Lastly, the issue raised by the Honorable Jonathan O'Doul on drug abuse, I think it was not understood by the Prime Minister. His point was that there's almost proliferation of growing of marijuana. And those growing claim that they are selling to some people that have licenses. May we ask the Prime Minister to table the list of companies that have licenses so that we can know the buyers? Probably a track over the abusers could be easier. That there's a cartel of growers that have a license and it's a preserve of them alone and alone. And subsequently, communities are suffering because now selling to the growers that have a license to sell abroad is on black market. So they are growing and consuming at the same time. So you've not supplied an answer to the Honourable Member, Right Honourable Prime Minister. We know the Act is available. It talked about implementation. You probably will think of a better answer. Right Honourable Speaker, finally, the law does not stop me from asking a small question to the Prime Minister. Lastly, the Board of Bank of Uganda expires on 18th February, and only two will be eligible for reappointment. There is no governor at Bank of Uganda. Will the Prime Minister tell us whether they are aware of this problem and they're going to fix it, or they are bargaining and making deals with the people? Right, Honourable Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you. Unfortunately, my brother Rope, the law prohibits you. Rule 41, sub rule 9. It's very clear. The leader of the opposition shall have a right to comment or reply, not to ask questions. So that one, Prime Minister, take note. Then in future you can answer. Next item.
Item 3 on the other paper, statements by the Right Honourable Prime Minister on 1, the current drug stock out in public health facilities.
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Right Honourable Speaker and colleagues, in line with your communication regarding drug stockouts in public health facilities across the country, That Honourable Speaker, I convened a meeting as you advised yesterday, today, in my office, and the following key stakeholders were in attendance: the Government Chief Whip, the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, together with his Permanent Secretary, the PSST, the Minister of Health and her technical people, the National Planning Authority, and it was observed that there is a general stock out of medicines and health supplies in the public health facilities across the country. The other observation is that there were some logistical challenges that have been noted and are going to be addressed. Honourable Speaker, it was observed that there is need to harmonize operations between the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development and National Medical Stores under the Ministry of Health. We came up with resolutions, Right Honourable Speaker. One, I have instituted or constituted an interministerial committee chaired by the Government Chief Whip, comprising of Ministries of Finance, Ministry of Health, National Medical Stores, and National Planning Authority, to look into these issues in detail. I repeat, in detail, and report back within a week, starting tomorrow. Honourable Speaker, the distribution of medicines has commenced and must be fast-tracked to ensure that every corner of the country is covered now that honorable colleagues are going back on recess. The distribution has already started, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, lastly, I will provide an update on this matter to Parliament within 14 working days. I know that it will be after recess, but I can give an update in the national media so that you can also help in fast tracking the distribution of these drugs. Honorable Speaker, I beg to submit. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Right Honorable Prime Minister. Thank you. What is very important, you have resumed the distribution of these essential medicines. Honorable colleagues, you are going to your constituencies. Please cross-check in 14 working days. After we've returned from recess, the Prime Minister will be given space. She presents a statement and we handle this issue. Next item.
Item 3.2, statement on the state of human rights in Uganda.
Right Honorable Prime Minister.
Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues.
Procedure.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, this House is the House of Record. And we need to harmonize the command of the order paper and the title of the statement issued by the Prime Minister initially. I'll need your guidance because the order paper talks about human rights and the Prime Minister is making a statement on alleged abductions. That is one. Two, Right Honorable Speaker. The statement is coming at the backdrop of your own command that a meeting is held between my team and the Prime Minister's team. Verbatim, the Right Honorable Speaker on the floor. The meeting was a follow-up. We had some time back, as promised on Wednesday, that we shall have this meeting to discuss the issues and report back to the House. We have had an extensive meeting where we thought we would be able to report back to the House, as I had promised today, but because of the wide range of coverage of the issues, we finished the meeting past 1. We said instead of bringing the report that's not well captured, we gave the drafting side that's jointly being done time on Thursday, and it will be one of the first items on the order paper. Right Honourable Speaker, I want to be on record that first of all, the Prime Minister's report statement, I received it well here in the House. 2, that I did not participate in making this statement, so it's not a joint statement. That does not impeach the right of the Prime Minister to make her statement as desired, but I wanted the record to be straight. That's not a joint statement. It is the Prime Minister's statement. So your own command was vacated. Then I will put the House on notice that immediately on resumption of Parliament, I will make my alternative statement. Right, Honourable Speaker.
Thank you. With that in mind, statement deferred, date the reconciliation, the harmonization, go be done. You report back in 2 weeks' time. I need next item. Right Honourable Prime Minister, we shall not disturb you with the statement for business of the succeeding week since we are adjourning sign die. Issues might come up. Next item.
Item 4, motion seeking leave of the House.
Colleagues, you usually want to bring in issues under procedure. You want to raise issues under procedure. We are still moving with the order paper. As long as I'm still on the order paper, I have not deviated from the order paper. Please, let's proceed.
Item 4, motion seeking leave of the House to introduce a private member's bill entitled the Law Revision Miscellaneous Amendments Bill.
The Honorable Sarira.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker.
Procedure? Procedure, Attorney General.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, as government, we presented a bill on the floor of Parliament in respect of law reform. Sorry, law revision. And as it turns out, my colleague, Honorable Basalirwa, had a bill. You ordered that we try to harmonize and see how we can accommodate each other. A meeting was held, which was not conclusive. That meeting was between the Attorney General's chambers, law reform, members, the Honorable Basalirwa, and we are going to have another meeting continuing to harmonize on Tuesday next week, chaired by the Committee of Legal, to which Honorable Basalirwa belongs. Now, it is preemptive, it is premature that Honorable Basalirwa seeks now to come back to Parliament, even before we have either agreed or failed to agree. Are we proceeding well? Yes, he is a private member and we are not denying his right. Are we proceeding well for us not to have exhausted the avenue of reconciling the two bills and report back? Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable colleagues, if you remember, Rope, I need your attention because this involves your member. Honorable colleagues, if you remember, the Honorable Basalirwa came here with a motion to present a private law revision members bill, private members bill in the law revision. I was informed by the Attorney General that their bill is almost ready, so we should give government a chance to present this bill. I used my authority. I said, Honorable Basalirwa, please don't present this bill. Go and reconcile your bill, proposed bill, which was even against Rule 8, by the way, to some extent. So that was anticipation, you know. But I used the collegiality between us as colleagues. And I sent you to go and reconcile. Now, in the meetings you had, in the meeting you had, Honorable Basalirwa came back and reported that critical aspects of his bill were outrightly rejected by your side, and you said you cannot consider them. Now, those aspects were very critical because they needed to be part of the wrong title of the bill. So any reconciliation you make, you can introduce any amendments. But if those amendments are supposed to be part of the wrong title of the bill, okay, they can only be introduced in the original bill on the floor. They cannot be introduced at committee level. But what Honorable Basalirwa was introducing is provided for under Rule 116, Sub-Rule 12 Rules of Procedure. It has to be part of the wrong title of the bill. Now, if I denied him space on the order paper, I would be suffocating a member indirectly. Indirectly, because if I had done that, if you had gone at that level and you captured these critical issues into your long title of the bill, we wouldn't be here. Okay? So with that, I'm going to allow a private member to table his motion. It is up to the House to either accept or not. So, Honorable Vasarira.
Much obliged, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, this is a motion seeking leave of the House to introduce a private member's bill entitled the Law Revision Parliament to make laws on any matter for the peace, order, development, and good governance
Long title of the bill. Okay? They can only be introduced in the original bill on the floor. They cannot be introduced at committee level. But what Honorable Vasarira was introducing is provided for under Rule 116, Sub-Rule 12 Rules of Procedure. It has to be part of the wrong title of the bill. Now, if I denied him space on the order paper, I would be suffocating a member indirectly. Indirectly, because if I had done that, if you had gone at that level and you captured these critical issues into your long title of the bill, we wouldn't be here. Okay? So with that, I'm going to allow a private member to table his motion. It is up to the House to either accept or not.
Much obliged, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, this is a motion seeking leave of the House to introduce a private member's bill entitled the 137, Clause 3 empowers a person to challenge an act of Parliament or another law or anything done under the authority of any law or an act or omission by any person or authority where such enactment, act or omission is inconsistent with or in contravention of a provision of the Constitution, recognizing that pursuant to Article 137, Clause 3 of the Constitution, the Constitutional Court, while considering petitions filed in the cases of Charles Onyango Bo and Andrew Mujuni Mwenda versus Attorney General, Supreme Court, Constitutional Appeal number 2 of 2002, Andrew Mwenda Mujuni and the East African Media Institute, Uganda Limited versus Attorney General, Court of Appeal, Constitution number 12 of 2005, Human Rights Network and 4 others versus Attorney General, Constitutional Petition number 56 of 2013, Muwanga Chivumbi versus Attorney General, Constitutional Petition number 9 of 2005, that examined the Penal Code, the Public Order Management, and the Police Act and declared unconstitutional Sections 40 and 50 of the Penal Code Act, Section 8 of the Public Order Management Act, and Section 32 of the Police Act for infringing various provisions of the Constitution, further recognizing that declaration by court means that the impugned sections of the Penal Code Act, the Public Order Management Act, and the Police Act are null and void and have no legal effect in Uganda, concerned that in spite of the declaration by court, the provisions that were found unconstitutional to infringe on the Constitution have not been repealed from the law books and therefore remain redundant with no legal effect, cognizant that in order to give full effect to the decisions of the Constitutional Court, there is an urgent need to amend the Penal Code Act, the Public Order Management Act, and the Police Act, and to remove provisions affected by those decisions. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Parliament grants me leave to introduce a private member's bill entitled the Law Revision Miscellaneous Amendments Bill, a draft of which, Right Honourable Speaker, is attached here too. I beg to move, Right Honourable Speaker.
Is the motion seconded? Honorable Deke, Honorable Singoma, Rope, Honorable Kamara, Honorable Betty Awor, Honorable Court, Honorable Pendi. Honorable, can you speak to your motion? Honorable Kaberuka, can you speak to your motion? Honorable Katabazi should be captured.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, the courts of law have in various decisions pronounced themselves on the constitutionality of cases and provisions under our laws. Right Honourable Speaker, the Constitutional Court has declared Section 8 of the Public Order Management Act unconstitutional. It did declare Section 32 of the Police Act unconstitutional. It did declare Section 50 of the Penal Code Act unconstitutional. But Right Honourable Speaker, court judgments are not self-executing. This Parliament has to make a pronouncement by way of law revision. Right Honourable Speaker, because those provisions still exist in our law books, the police is continuing to use them to undermine associational freedoms. The police continues to use them to undermine freedom of expression. And Right Honourable Speaker, even the DPP is using those provisions to charge people under cases that have been declared unconstitutional. Right Honourable Speaker, there are also laws that with the time no longer serve their purpose. And when you look at my bill, Right Honourable Speaker, I have enumerated some of those laws. You have, for example, the Nachivubo War Memorial Trust Act, which for all intents and purposes is not serving its purpose. Right Honourable Speaker, you have issues like laws like the Nguli Act and the others. Right Honourable Speaker, it can only be fair that this honourable House be pleased, Right Honourable Speaker, to grant me leave so that I introduce a private member's bill. Right Honourable Speaker, I beg to submit.
Thank you. I'll just speak, Honorable Jonathan. Yeah? Oh, okay. I have around 2-3 seconds.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I'll be
2 minutes, we do quick.
I'll be very brief, Mr. Speaker, sir. This is a self-explaining request made to this House. It is not coming out of the members' own volition. We all swear by the Constitution, and therefore we respect decisions of the court. And in this Parliament, we can only exercise our legislative powers through bills as provided under Article 91. So I rise to second, given the fact that some of these decisions have been made long time ago, and then the departments of government that are responsible for making law reform, including Uganda Law Reform Commission, which is directly under the Office of the Attorney General, have been reluctant to give effect to these decisions. So this is the best opportunity to ensure that the Chapter 4 of our Constitution related to the freedoms and of citizens to associate is given effect through this bill. So I second and do ask members to grant leave to the honourable member to proceed.
Thank you.
Thank
Honourable Saro Pendi.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, I do second the motion, and I thank you for granting the member opportunity to present this motion seeking leave. Right Honourable Speaker, the Constitution is our supreme law, and it's very unfortunate when we have provisions in our own laws that contradict the Constitution. This is the same spirit in which we brought the marriage bill, the alcohol bill, and Right Honourable Speaker, thank you for not listening to the Attorney General, because he has been opposing every bill that we bring here as private members. We are here to legislate for our people. And if the government, the front bench, is not doing its work, we shall always do it. And this is done in good faith. So, Right Honourable Speaker, I stand here to request the government that we are not here as members opposing government. We are here to work for the people of Uganda. And it's right that if the laws have, if the courts have pronounced themselves on a matter, then that should be it. It's up to us to move and ensure that the court rulings, which become, by the way, law, are actually, for as long as there is no objection and the matter has been settled, then we must ensure that in our books that is removed. Right Honorable Speaker, I have had young people. Just a month ago, a young man traveled from my constituency, and I think he came around, he was at City Square, waiting for transport to go to his next destination, and he was arrested. He called me crying that he had been taken, that he was idle, and you know, and the next thing he was in Luzira using a prisoner's phone, trying to reach out to me. I remember trying to raise this with the police and wondering, one of our police officers that I know, wondering why they are arresting members, even when they appeared before the Public Accounts Committee. Why police was still using those provisions which were long outlawed by the courts. So this is real, and I want to appreciate and request the House to support the member, approve this motion, so that we can see to it that the bill is brought for first reading. And Attorney General, it's my humble appeal, please support us in this process. Thank you very much.
Now, for the record, I listened to the Attorney General. Because I don't want it to go on record that I didn't when I called him on the floor. And he gave it. Attorney General.
Right Honorable Speaker, I'm not seconding. And I want to borrow the word you just used for the record. The discrepancy, because as government we have prepared the law revision miscellaneous provisions bill. Now, Honorable Suman is concerned is that a number of issues he has read through, he feels that they are not embedded in the bill. And we are saying that let us reconcile. These may not be the only ones. We sit with the committee. If there are several others, then we can all embed them. In any case, when you prepare a law, a later law supersedes an earlier one. If an earlier one was declared unconstitutional, and by revision a bill is prepared and you have a new law, that law supersedes the earlier one. So we either do not specifically or expressly have to put this in writing, or we have to list it in writing and say the Police Act section this is hereby repealed. That is all we needed to do. And that's why I said we wanted time to sit with Asuman and see how best to embed this, so that we have one bill as a team. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, colleagues, let me just guide quickly. And the Chair Rigo, for you, you cannot contribute on such matters because they come to you. Now, quickly, number one, we already set a precedent. Recently, we had a private member's bill, the Employment Amendment Bill, where the committee report was even ready for presentation. But you know, as long as it's not yet presented here on the floor, it's not yet a report of the House. So I used that prerogative. I allowed a bill from the minister who had been begged over time. I allowed the bill from the minister to come. I sent it back to the committee to harmonize. And this is being flexible. If I'm to interpret rules strictly, then business here would be stuck. So I did it for government. Okay? And the way I did it for government, we can do it for private member. That's number one. But most importantly, the amendments you can introduce at committee level, whether it's through your reconciliation meetings, as long as they don't affect the wrong title, of the bill. Now, the amendments proposed by Honorable Wasaro from the beginning were affecting the wrong title of the bill. So even if you reconcile at committee level without a title coming from this committee here, okay, and those provisions captured, then that reconciliation won't be helpful at all. Because Rule 1162 of our Rules of Procedure, we shall be doing work which is null and void. So colleagues, I want to put a question now. I want to put a question that the motion seeking leave of Parliament to introduce a private member's bill entitled the Law Revision Miscellaneous Amendments Bill be adopted. Those in favor say aye, and the contrary none. The ayes have it. Now, please, Honourable Member, yes, Honourable Member, expedite the process of your bill so that it can go to the committee. I cannot, it can be brought here for first reading. I cannot stop the committee from proceeding with its work because that's anticipation. So, but work together. Work together on this very critical issue. Colleagues, with that, House adjourned, sign die.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.